Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies we see on a month-to-month basis. It's time to crack open our movie memoirs. That's right. All right, Dragon, welcome aboard. We got Donovan Martin in the chat. Hey there, Donovan. Nice to have you, as always. So, folks, we're going to jump right into it. It's the July 2019 edition of Movie Memoirs. And, Dragon, I got to tell you, this month had a couple stinkers, for sure. We'll get into them. I have a couple horror stories about The Lion King that you might not even be aware of quite yet. I have some bombshells to drop on you about that. I'm not sure how privy you are about some of the changes they've made, but I want to kind of get your reaction on a few of those. But in spite of that big old lion in the room, if you will, Dragon, this month was fantastic, and the top three movies of the year for me in terms of my rankings all come from this month, and by a pretty considerable margin. I mean, especially the top two, Dragon. I mean, the top two of this month are definitely my top two of 2019. So this movie, this month is definitely stacked, but there's a couple elements weighing it down, and also just to warn the folks here. Dragon's got a big old, I feel embarrassed about this. Dragon's got a big old bullet point list of catch-up stuff that he's got. I got nada. I got nothing. So, Dragon, you're definitely carrying the slack on that. But what's your thesis for the month, Dragon, just in terms of stuff that you saw in theaters?
Well, first off, let me acknowledge this too. As you'll probably notice, folks, we usually like to do memoirs at the start of the following month, after the month, to kind of show we've encapsulated all of the days of July. Probably we're kind of doing this one a little bit early. So one of the movies I really wanted to check out on Netflix, it hasn't kind of premiered yet. So that one's going to be a bit of a kind of a carryover into the next month as kind of a part of catch up. So just in case anyone's curious, it's Red Sea Diving School. Red Sea Diving Resort, the new Chris Evans movie. So that's absent here, but no, that would have been included otherwise. And yeah, I mean, overall, my memoirs. Let me put it this way. There was one dud for the July stuff. Bear in mind, my July stuff is minimal. It's so funny how things worked out. My stuff's a little bit more minimal compared to Tiki's for the in theater. Well, not just in theater, for the July stuff, and of course the catch up. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of extensive compared to my associate here.
Right.
Point being, I don't know what it is, folks. I can't get them to catch up on stuff. Dang it! But I don't know. No, it's
yeah, that's what doing, having a full-time job and pursuing an imprint. Yep. Blah, blah, blah. That's what it'll do to you. Mm-hmm. So sad. World's smallest violin and all that. Dragon, I'm trying. Yep. I've been watching a lot of Frasier.
Yeah, we'll get into that too.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so the point is, I had one done in July, and we'll talk about that. But overall, it was excellent. It was very strong. I felt excellent, very strong, very solid, and I was also very solid on the catch up all around. I didn't really have any duds as far as the catch up went. I mean, there was a number of surprises. I'm going to get a lot of interesting ones in the catch up, which we'll get to, and one that Tiki's going to go out of his mind with when we get to it. There's a mystery pick on there that he's going to be very excited by.
Oh, really?
He doesn't know what it is yet, folks. You're going to catch his live reaction.
Well, I mean, sometimes with these mystery picks, Dragon, you're just like, hey, surprise, it's a movie that you've sung praises of, and I don't like it all.
Well, it could go that way. We don't know.
Yeah, it could.
We'll see. It might go that way. Who knows? Anyways, of course, as we get into it, you want to welcome our live audience here. Of course, guys, by all means, if you have anything you'd like to share, like your thoughts on the movie or any movies that you've seen that we may have not seen, and by all means, just, we'll shout you out here.
Should we do a Fan Appreciation Day plug?
Yeah, real quickly at the start, I guess. Yeah, sure.
All right, so folks, Hangouts is going away on August 1st, and this does not mean the end of our content. It just means for now, on a temporary basis, as in kind of like a lovely we'll meet again type way. We're going to be doing shows via via Skype. I don't know why I always have it though. We're going to be doing shows via Skype for a while, and those are going to be uploaded to the channel instead of done in a live fashion. However, Dragon, I feel like we can do some stuff with
we might be able to premiere and might be able to do like some
premiere,
like
exactly.
quasi
Premiere,
live
yeah,
event. So we'll see what we can do.
But anyways, I digress. So we're going to go out in style, folks. We're going to go out the way that you want us to go out specifically. So Fan Appreciation Day, you guys already know it. Some of you watching already know what it is. But Wednesday, July 31st, basically all day. I can even stream before Dragon gets like I'm willing to do this as long as we need to do it for certain stuff. So basically an all-day thing as long as we need to do it. We're going to be taking fan requests, as well as we'll work in some of our curated content here and there. We're going to be doing a little bit of a channel retrospective that won't take up much time and stuff like that. But basically, folks, what we need requests, and importantly, what I really want to get out there, and if you guys watching can, you can either do it on our Twitter or you can do it live in the chat right now, and that would be very helpful. And Dragon, if you can keep track of this, I'm looking specifically for Disney, Imagineering, theme park related stuff, stuff that really sticks to the root of the channel. Right now, we have a lot of superhero stuff. We have a lot of TV show type stuff that we've got on the list. We've still got a pretty good extensive list, but I'm looking to kind of balance out the different subjects. So if you guys have like specifically theme park related subjects, this is like an improv theater. I'm looking for suggestions from the audience here, folks. So Appreciation Day.
Okay, headline, we're looking for topics, folks, for Wednesday. Either throw them out live, throw them out in advance, put them on the Twitter, put them on the Discord page. If you're there on the in the Just Giggle Discord on the grab baggers, we'll be on the lookout all over the place for them, even here. So we'll add them to the list. We'll shout you out. We'll be all playful and talk about stuff. It'll be fun.
All right. Okay, so Dragon, let's get into the news.
Yes. All right. Into the news we go. Okay. Well, first off, real quick.
Into the news.
All right. Okay, but in all seriousness, so again, first off, big headline. Of course, as many people are aware, San Diego Comic-Con dropped, and we already did a big, extensive video talking about all the San Diego Comic-Con stuff. So, I mean, the big headlines, all the Marvel movies were announced, and we're very excited. The Disney, at least a large number of them. Some, of course, things confirmed like Fantastic Four and Blade. People are very excited, and of course, stuff like a lot of the Disney Plus stuff like Falcon Winter Soldier has been announced, and some like getting details and all sorts of stuff coming out of the woodwork from there. At least 10 projects plus plus all the stuff just doesn't quite have a date yet, but just has everyone really excited, as I mentioned, like FF or Black Panther 2 along those lines. But the big thing I do want to celebrate that we have to talk about here on Movie Memoirs, it happened, Tiki. Avengers Endgame is #1.
Yeah. Dragon, I'm honestly not as excited about this as you are. I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong, it's a good achievement. It's by all means a much more deserving movie than Avatar to have that #1 spot. But I mean, at this point, Dragon, look, we could do a whole podcast on the Disney monopoly that is occurring over the summer that we've honestly kind of been looming in the background, kind of just ignoring. So I don't know, man. It's definitely cool, but it just kind of barely limped over the finish line. I'm not as excited about it as you are, but it is a good achievement.
Don't try to deflate the balloon. I mean, look. Point is, everyone said, no, it's never going to beat it. Because here's the thing. It basically is Rocky 1 and 2 simultaneously, the success of Endgame.
Right.
Where it was already the people's champion, and that it beat the original Avatar release in its original run already. And then with the re-release, beat the original, and then, of course, Avatar had gotten re-released over a period of time. That's what kind of put it at the #1 spot. And Avengers, per its re-release, it beat Avatar 2. It was already the people's champ. Now it's the official champ, and I love it. And 10
Yeah.
years after release, even 10 years after release of Avatar 2, like from 2009 to 2019, ain't it all grand? I'm happy. I mean, Cameron's been knocked off his perch, not in a mean way, but you know what? He's been there for a while, and we beat Titanic, we beat the Blue Cat movie. I'm happy.
And meanwhile, I'm sitting here disturbed at the other Uncanny Valley cat movie that Disney's putting out. Beat Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in its first weekend. In The Lion King's second weekend, it beat Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by almost twice as much. Like, it made almost twice as much money. And I'm just
I had
like,
no
I don't
illusions
know.
that Once Upon a Time was going to make a lot of money. That's more of a kind of it's in the hearts of the critics and the audience on that one. It's not going to make a lot of money, but in the people's hearts, it'll make a lot of money.
Fair enough, man. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. We'll get to it, man. I'm becoming a little anti-Disney these days, Dragon. I am. The tide's kind of turning on my attitude towards the company that I once loved a little bit, just for their some of the practices that we've seen, especially with one movie that you can see on the thumbnail that I'm really not happy about. Especially the more and more I stew about it.
Tiki, allow me to throw this at you as I can transition us here.
Okay.
A little word of wisdom from a good man, or at least a parody of a good man. It's okay to feel sad.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about the thing we really got to talk about here. We had a trailer recently, and I believe right after Comic-Con we got a trailer, or at least shortly after Comic-Con.
Dragon, would it be fair to say that this might be like more exciting than anything we got at Comic-Con?
Okay, well, let me put you this way. In terms of what we tangibly got at Comic-Con, of course, the Comic-Con's always like snippets of footage. I heard we got trailers. I heard we got stuff.
Yeah.
We had a Comic-Con that was at least substantial was Jay and Silent Bob Strike. That was a legit trailer. All the other trailers were like stuff where it didn't really feel like it has to. It's a mind-blowing trailer. But in this case, we got this was definitely.
Dude, we got Picard and Data playing chess. What more do you want?
I'll give you that. That was pretty cool, though. But I mean, this is like it's like a universal thing. Everybody and their mother's like, "Oh my god, we got to see this movie." It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. We're not just commenting on the weather here, folks. No, it's the Mr. Rogers biopic that's been announced, and it's been announced way back when, of course, especially when Won't You Be My Neighbor was released. This was kind of talked up, basically a number of Mr. Rogers things. I believe, I forget if last year was the 30th anniversary or this year is the 30th anniversary for Mr. Rogers. I think it was last year because of the release of the documentary. The point being, they've really talked this up. Tom Hanks, of course, playing Mr. Rogers, and we finally got a trailer for it. We saw like the image, but we saw the full trailer in Flungrata, and oh my goodness, it's something beautiful.
What sticks out right away is just, of course, Tom Hanks. The amazing thing about Tom Hanks is that he's just like this iconic kind of like world-class Dragon. I definitely equate Tom Hanks to like a modern day like James Stewart, where he's an iconic actor, but he can still like blend into his roles really well. And you watch this footage, and I got to admit, Dragon, Hanks isn't the best when it comes to like distinguishing his voice from role to role. And so when I watch this, it's not 100% spot on in terms of like the voice of Rogers. But man, when it comes to the mannerisms and just the makeup job and all that and the wardrobe, I mean, it's chilling how spot on it is.
Again, it's what he did with Walt in. No,
I think it's better than what he did with Walt, at least in terms of, I don't know. With Walt, I always thought that that was more of like a caricature, like a really loving caricature, but a caricature nonetheless. With this, it feels like the real person, Dragon.
What I'm saying is it's the same effect where Tom Hanks doesn't necessarily look like the person that he's playing, but he captures the spirit.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
Where again, it's like the shifting of his face when he does. I don't know why. It's kind of like a flawless. Again, he captures the spirit of him. Where again, like that's he played a remarkable, very enthralling Walt Disney in Saving Mr. Banks. Again, when we talked when he gives the whole molasses speech, when he gives the whole old Elias Disney with the belt in his fist. When he gives that story, it gives me chills. My God, it's sublime. And of course, he's doing it yet
very
again.
Much rooted in Disney mythos, true Disney mythos for sure.
Absolutely. And highly recommend that movie if anyone hasn't seen it for some reason. Say Mr. Banks is excellent, and again, hopefully in the same vein, but even better. I mean, much as we love John Lee Hancock, much as we love his works, I mean, this is a biopic that's just kind of something we haven't quite. I don't know. It's gonna be something special. I know the director keeps touting off the fact that this is not. That this is not a traditional biopic, which really intrigues me because it seems like a biopic. I don't know. It sounds like we're gonna have like a little squeeze out a little
What he
magic.
might mean by that is that
Yeah.
it only covers like a one specific event.
That's a fair point because, of course, what they're doing here, and they touch on this in "Won't You Be My Neighbor." It's a part of the movie where we have Tom Junod, so they changed his name for the movie. Of course, Matthew Rhys is playing a reporter. That reporter is based off of Tom Junod, and the idea is you have this reporter, basically the really Joaquin Phoenix-looking guy, and "Won't You Be My Neighbor," with the gray hair, that guy. Tom Junod, he was sent to interview Mr. Rogers and see, okay, is the guy like, what's the guy like offset? Like, is he truly as kind of like, kind of whimsical and just kind of like, good-hearted as he seems on TV? Is he kind of like America's neighbor in real life? And he followed him for the day, kind of saw his routines and everything, and they went to the city. And that was my favorite part of the trailer. The ending of the trailer was like, okay, I recognize the story, and they're doing it right, where they're on the subway, and they're on the car, and then they're like, you're singing, "Please won't you be my neighbor?" They're singing the everyone. It's just this contagious kind of this contagious whimsy all throughout the subway car.
Mm-hmm.
This movie definitely, I think, is going to be the feel good movie of the year, and definitely for me the most anticipated biopic of the year. I'm very, based on watching this show, I'm like, give him the Oscar now, just give it to him, right? just mail it to him at this point. This is going to be tremendous. He captured the spirit. Just the looks, and he's lost weight for the role. I think he just look. I'm so excited for this movie. I couldn't be. I already love the documentary. I can't wait to see what this movie's going to do. It's going to be tremendous. I thought it was going to come out in October, so I got to wait an extra month for my own headcanon here. But it's coming out in November, so it's it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my most anticipated of the year. I don't want to say it's my number one most anticipated of the year, but actually, Dragon, my most anticipated movie of the year is one that we're going to talk about the trailer for.
I think I know what it is.
It's maybe anticipated for all the wrong reasons, but we'll get into that.
Oh, I know what it is.
You're like, I think you got excited and they were like, "Ah, shit." I love that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am very excited about the one that you thought I was talking about as well. But anyways.
Anyway, okay, so real quick. To Donovan, I echo your sentiments. Tom Hanks deserves a legacy award. That he does, my friend. That he does. Anyway. I mean, basically, the man represents America, and everybody and their mother loves Tom Hanks. You look at the first episode of Eat, they're talking about how beloved an icon Tom Hanks is. It goes without saying. All right, so let's move. Again, I'm trying to kind of cultivate a theme of our news here. So let's go from another beloved icon, something that's kind of in the works. It's not a lot here, just a little newsworthy thing this month. They announced the series that they're doing. POW Entertainment, Stan Lee's company. The company that Stanley, I guess, helped found, or I believe they're still in operation. I believe he helped found them, and then they keep on doing stuff. Remember, I've seen some of their work. It's The Amazing Stan Lee. There's a series, I think that's what they're calling it. It's called The Amazing Stan Lee, and essentially it's about a young Stan Lee. It's going to be I don't know if it's going to be 2D or 3D animated, because I mean I've seen the storyboards, which are obviously come across as 2D, so I'm not exactly sure how they're going to bring this about. But it's kind of a young Stan Lee kind of going through his life, very much kind of the imagination of one kid, and just kind of seeing him cultivate the ideas that will serve him years later. So it seems very interesting. It's kind of like a kid with a really vivid imagination type thing, but it's Stan Lee.
Do we have any voice?
No, not yet. Again, it's just kind of announced it and just showed a little bit of artwork about it. So
I gotta say, that's very intriguing. That'd be like doing a Walt Disney animated show or something.
That's the thing. I mean, POW, they've done interesting work in animation before. Usually, like, they have. Again, I can't say how much involvement Stanley actually had in these projects.
Yeah.
But it was the sense of. I mean, Stanley gave the okay to this thing, so it was in the works while he was around in those last years. But I mean, the other stuff that POW's released, they've done it's almost like indie creations, as in you have like the Condor, I believe, not Condor Man. I think it's just called the Condor, basically a skateboard themed hero. There's the Girl Who Can Turn Invisible. There's like the Stanley's Mighty Seven. There's like a number of kind of like these in-house projects we've had, which they have. Again, I can't say they're Yates, but I can say, okay, it's kind of in the spirit of Stanley and the Mighty Seven. Stanley's actually a character in that. It's quite fun. So it's it's hit or miss. Well, this one seems like it has a lot of potential. So anyway, moving on from that. Cool. So speaking of, so we've kind of, unfortunately, folks, we're kind of speaking of people of legacies that are kind of legacies that endure because they that continue even though they pass. Of course, and speaking of passings, we should probably talk about some. This month was really ripe with a lot of unfortunate passings.
It was, man. It was rough. It was really rough.
We lost it. The ones we're going to talk about here, we lost 4 big ones.
I think the. I mean, I don't want to downplay any of the other ones, but I think the. I think the bookends, Dragon, the bookending deaths of this month. Like, one was an actor who was kind of cut short in his prime. The other was very much kind of like a legacy voice actress who was very iconic. Kind of like bookended the month of sadness in terms of like losing like kind of these, dare I say, icons. Now Cameron Boyce, folks, of course, Cameron Boyce, Dragon, he's not an icon to you or me because we didn't grow up with the Descendants movies. But I think for a generation of people below us, I would say he's kind of like in that like Zac Efron level of, like a big name. Like not only is he in Descendants, but I know he was I think it was, God, I want to say it was Jesse. Dragon, help me out here.
Well, I know he's in the, Adam Sandler spoke about his passing because he played his son in the Grown Ups movies.
Right. Yeah, that too. So, he is, he was in a lot of projects, not just Descendants. I think his best known role is probably going to be Descendants.
I know he's got a posthumous thing coming out too. One, of course, he has Descendants 3, but beyond that, he has a series. I believe kind of a grittier series called Runt. I think it's called Runt. I believe it's on HBO or Showtime, but it has like I think it's HBO. He's got a show coming out there. I don't know how main a role he has. I want to say he's one of the leads, but I can't confirm nor deny that.
Okay. I just want to say, man. I mean, obviously, it's a huge like complete waste of a life, just wasted in such a tragic way. But what hits me so hard, Dragon, is how suddenly it happened, just the actual circumstances of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'm glad that it seems like he went peacefully at the very least. That's like the fucking like best thing that could be said about this terrible situation. But apparently, folks, he just kind of died in his sleep from a seizure or something like that, from complications with epilepsy. And I don't know, just that whole idea, honestly, like the whole like dying in your sleep thing, I must admit that scares me on a fundamental level, both in terms of like not how I would want to go out or how I'd like want to find one of my family members. Just the idea like they're just not alive anymore. And Dragon, I'm sorry if I'm sounding insensitive, but it really did kind of like hit me on kind of a kind of an emotional level, even though I know very little about this kid. Of course, we covered Descendants pretty recently, so I got to admit it was a little bit surreal to kind of the guy who was like, hey, he doesn't have much screen time, but he seems like he has, a good screen presence to him in the first Descendants movie playing Cruella de Vil's son. And now I don't know, man, it's definitely going to make going back and watching Descendants 2 and 3, which I do intend on doing at some point, probably for a Disney Channel original movie retrospective, a follow-up to that thing we did, the Decomorama, a follow-up to that. But, it's going to make going back and rewatching those a little bit tougher. It's just man, it's just kind of a big sudden thing, and I'm sure Donovan has things to say about it in the comments.
Yeah, I echo your sentiment a little bit on that too. Because again, when I heard about Cameron Boyce's passing, initially I kind of forgot the name, but then I realized, oh my god, it's the same kid. It's the same kid we saw in Descendants, and it kind of shaped me because I know it sounds so ridiculous, like you didn't know him at all, but it's like we just kind of recently, just kind of like we kind of touched on his works, like oh my god, we talked about him that recently. He's gone. It's a little haunting.
It is, yeah.
Isn't again? He was like, and that's the thing. I mean, with the Carlos character, I'm not just trying to bolster him or anything. I'm just saying that with this character, again, he didn't have a lot to do. But again, like these, the thing about the Sense had a lot of potential. I think that kind of echoes the thing of Cameron Boyce and just kind of like a lot of the actors and a lot of the the up and comers and kind of that next generation thing you're speaking of with the Disney Channel original movie, or kind of with with the Descendants, is that again for a lot of kids out there, this might be their foray into eventually. Okay, I watch this movie, I like this Carlos kid, and of course he connects with Carlos. Well, I'm going to check out 101 Dalmatians. That might lead him down the rabbit hole. He or she down the rabbit hole. Okay, I'm going to get into this. You're going to get into the Disney as the grander holds. I mean, Descendants does hold kind of a place for the next generation. I mean, if anything, I mean, it's nice that Cameron Boyce was kind of a conduit for that. For that sort of thing. I mean, because again, they all had all four of them had a presence or a sell, or something kind of was interesting about each of these characters. And again, whether we didn't in the first one, again, I don't have to have the second two go, have two or three go, of course. But it's the fact, again, it's interesting to say the least. And yes, you will be missing the Reeds and the Donovans stuff here. Like all the cast members took at least a week off social media, and Dove Cameron and Sophia Carlson, they were the most emotional ones. They took a little bit of, out of respect, they kind of waited a little bit before they kind of shared like their thoughts and their feelings on him. And yeah, it was basically a lot of Cameron Boyce will miss. And again, I think the sentiment absolutely shared.
All right,
no one should die that young. No one should.
Yeah, absolutely. Drake, it kind of reminded me of when Anton Yelchin passed. That was a death that really shook me. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing that really shook me about Anton Yelchin, real quick. I know it's completely. Why you bring up Yelchin? He's been
because it's a similar thing of like it's an actor who died like way before his prime, but he had a lot of potential.
Yelchin really saddened me because he died in such a pointless way, and I felt that was the biggest problem. Because Yelchin, I watched him on one of Del Toro's animated shows that's been on Netflix on DreamWorks, Troll Hunter. He's the lead in that show. He was really good. He played this really good lead character, and of course he passed. And through the seasons they had in memory of Anton Yelchin playing at the end of the majority of the episodes, and of course the third season they had, unfortunately, to recast him. But again, there was a good sound alike. But the fact of the matter is, it's like Yelchin. Yelchin was good. Yelchin, and again, just to die in such a stupid way, and just it felt like such a it always feels strange to say a waste of life because it sounds like you're insulting the guy, because it was a waste of life, but no, it wasn't that at all. It's a fleeting. It was such a fleeting life, such a short-lived life, and that you feel cheated out of something. Like, oh man, that kid was only going on to doing stuff for all we know. That's a shame.
So, Dragon, take the lead on Rip Torn, because literally the thing that I most know him from is Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah, perhaps I should take the lead in that case.
Yes, I think perhaps you should.
Rip Torn. Oh, good. So I can go on a long time about Rip Torn. Rip Torn.
Would you like some sausages?
Anyway, Rip Torn. Rip Torn is a great actor. Rip Torn was, of course, many people, aside from Freddy Got Fingered, I think a lot of people will best know him as Zed from Men in Black. Of course, the boss of the MIB. Of course, he was in the first two movies, and and in those movies, of course, he just brought, especially in the first one. I think it's the second one. Again, he's consistent. He's good. Actually, got to do a little bit of a stunt in the second one. But he just played kind of this great kind of counterpoint for the J character, and of course for K. J and K, they both have a history you had with Tommy Lee Jones, and there's kind of like a great kind of a juxtaposition you have between him and kind of the seasoned boss of the MIB, and then of course the relationship evolves in the next many points. Rip Torn, he brings a class and he brings a respectability to the role, but he can also be really, really funny. Of course, I'm going to name off a few roles here. Of course, you have Men in Black, Dodgeball. He played Patches I believe O'Halloran.
I think O'Halloran, yeah.
The point is, he played Patches in Dodgeball. Of course, that's a really hysterical role. It's just him just getting a chance.
What's interesting about him is that I feel like he is kind of a chameleon. Like, he does kind of disappear into roles.
That's the thing. Like, he basically, with something like Dodgeball, you have Rip Torn in the wave. Maybe people know him again.
Because honestly, I completely forgot that was Rip Torn. And yeah, you're right. That is an iconic character.
Hey, Rip Torn, he can just be like kind of the guy who just yells all the really funny stuff, or just he has that great. Rip Torn always had that great voice. Of course, you and I know him for something. I'm surprised. I'm surprised you went to Freddy Got Fingered, because you know him for something so much better than that, man. Not even Men in Black. I mean, you know him for a Disney role, man. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, tell me.
Zeus from Hercules.
Zeus. Really? You're gonna get on me for forgetting about Zeus? I mean, I would understand if James Woods had died and you were like, Tiki, how could you forget that James Woods played Hades? But no, Dragon, I'm sorry, Zeus doesn't have that big of a
They
role.
had a really great. There was a warm fatherly quality to the performance that he
I
gave.
mean,
His
you're
voice,
not
in my
wrong.
opinion.
I'm not trying to downplay it at all. I'm just saying that when it comes to iconic voice acting in Hercules, he might be like the fourth on the list that I think of.
Right, well, my point is, Rip Torn he knew there was a guy who knew how to use his voice in various ways, where he could use it in kind of like the guy kind of spitting out the funny dialogue in Dodgeball, where he said, "If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball." Just ridiculous. But he's selling it. And again, there was a little bit of a warmth there, where he kind of plays like he's a guy who's at the top of his game, is just now is kind of laughing at the next generation of dodgeball player. Instead of in the 50s where it was dangerous and people loved the danger, you know. And of course, with Zeus, you had the much more varied role where again he plays this again. He can have like this really warm father thing to he can range. You got a lot of great variety in that role is what I'm getting at here because you have like the classic Rip Torn just like just welcome brother. He was just saying that to to Hades, and he's like man the battle stations during when everything's breaking out, and of course he has like son you'll be able to ascend with us when it's time. Like he brings a lot of levels to, and of course. Many people know him as well from the Larry Sanders shows. I believe he played, Gary Shandling's agent in that show. He was like the talk show host's agent. He was always like bolstering up a lot of really witty dialogue of such. And the one obscure one I want to bring up, I recommend everybody check out this movie, especially given the fact that Rip Torn has passed, and I feel this one's what this movie's all about. I think many people get a kick out of it. It's a really underrated film. It's called Defend Your Life, or Defending Your Life, I believe. I think it's crap. I can't remember if it's Defending Your Life or Defend Your Life. But the point is, it's really good. It's an Albert Brooks movie, and Rip Torn plays essentially the lawyer for the Albert Brooks character. He's the caseworker. The idea is Albert Brooks dies. He goes to essentially he goes to heaven, but it's a question if you're going to be reincarnated or you're going to get to stay in heaven. That's kind of the idea. And it's such a well-directed movie. It's such a beautiful film. I don't want to go on too long about it. My point is, Rip Torn, he just kind of plays this nice guy who you think, okay, is he conning him? Is he? It's not a questionable role. He just plays a nice guy, but he's kind of playing a little bit of mind games on him because he has to test if the guy's worthy. He just plays a really good lawyer, but I'm not doing it justice, folks. Just check that out if you want like an obscure Rip Torn performance. It's really solid, and he'll be missed. He was a legend in Hollywood. He's a legend of roles and so much. He was Rip Torn was an A+ guy. He really was, and it's a shame that he's gone.
Okay, so Rutger Hauer, I feel like this guy was kind of like maybe, speaking of kind of like a generational thing, Dragon, I feel like this guy was probably like a really big icon for the generation before you and me. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, we know him, but I feel like he was a really big deal in the 80s.
Rutger Hauer is a guy who's he's like a skipping stone where he's kind of touched very like a point of everyone in the generation. He's been there, whether he's been a big role or not. Like he's at his boom in the 80s. Let's face it, the 80s is like the boom of Rutger Hauer. That's like where people know him. That's where he kind of went down history as a very memorable character from Blade Runner. He's Roy Batty in Blade Runner. He's the main replicant. Of course Rutger Hauer had the honor of having one of the most beautiful speeches, one of these beautiful monologues or speeches in all of film as Roy Batty. They get that in a lifetime.
I'm honestly surprised we haven't seen that monologue in Barry yet.
That's the thing. I mean, Patton Oswalt,
Barry emphasizes the big movie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My point is, Patton Oswalt is always going on about Blade Runner. Of course, it's a classic. Of course, the main thing, whether you love or hate Blade Runner, because some people aren't crazy about it. They aren't.
I appreciate it, but
it's really artistic. Of course, like 449. I'm saying, have like 4 different cuts of it. So the point is, Blade Runner is always like kind of a specificity you have to strike with Blade Runner. Like if you like it, which version of it. The point being, I think overall people like Blade Runner. At the very least, they like it. If they don't love it, they like it. And at the very least, with Blade Runner, even like the impact that it has, like we don't have Batman Beyond looking the way it does without Blade Runner. It was kind of a view of like kind of a really noirish looking future. That was really cool. It's raining all the time, that sort of future.
Mm-hmm.
But the important thing is, if anyone remembers anything from Blade Runner, aside from just shooting replicants and the whole the eye effect, it's Roy Batty. And that last scene with Roy Batty, where with the dove, with the pigeon and everything, I think I forget if it was a dove or a pigeon. I think they used doves and made it look. The point is, with the birds and everything. That's the thing. So I mean, regardless, it's like a beautiful scene, kind of speaking about the fragility of life and what's beyond and everything. Just that had that scene as an actor, and of course, you and I we've kind of touched on them in places too. Of course, like I'll always remember him personally for Batman Begins. He's Mr. Earl in Batman Begins, the guy who's trying to run Wayne Enterprises and kind of take Wayne Enterprises away from
Sure,
Bruce
sure,
Wayne.
sure. That's the
He
thing
has
about him,
like
man.
Lucius
He's kind of
Fox.
like a character actor who just kind of like pops up here and there.
That's the thing. Since we have that, we have like the whole like the memo thing from Batman Begins. The whole like didn't you get the memo? That whole runner with him. The other two things you and I know him specifically for something else. That's the
Okay.
main thing you and I know him for outside of Blade Runner. I said that one there's Sin City. Of course, he played Cardinal. I believe it's Cardinal O'Rourke in Sin
Oh
City,
yeah,
basically the
right,
big bad
right,
Cardinal.
sure.
It has that, which again, that's a really good role. It's kind of a brief role, but it's kind of like you build up your big bad in a noir piece, or you can kind of like the guy who orchestrate a lot of really terrible stuff. Just kind of like the corruption within the Catholic Church being the operative idea for that section of story in Sin City. But of course, the big thing you and I know him from, and again, it's kind of a footnote in the grand scheme of things, but still, it's like if you know who that is, it's like, oh man, they got a good actor for this. Gallivant. He played Kingsley in Gallivant. He was Richard's brother, the literal older brother.
Yes, yes, yes. Of course.
And he just played it with such glee of like, okay, I'm just gonna have fun with this. And it's the guy going there's acting like a petulant child, like, okay, I'm the older brother. I'm like acting like an
Yeah.
'80s bully within, just acting like kind of the older, pretty much like Chet from, almost like Chad or Chet from the guys. Chad or what's in the Weird Science? Is the brother's name Chad or Chet? Because I think it's Chet.
You got me on that one, man.
The point being, he's kind of in that sense of like he's just the older brother's kind of like poking you because he doesn't have, he doesn't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to. He
yeah.
takes the point is like Rutger Hauer just again. He has like he's going to be in the AFI, let's say, for that scene in Blade Runner. But it's nice that we were lucky that we got to see him kind of touch other things within our lives. Just like he's appeared. He's just been there, kind of watching over film as the decades have gone on, which is kind of nice. Rutger Hauer, way to go.
All right.
All right.
So, like I said, Dragon, we kind of got like a bookend, whereas like, one legacy was cut short all too soon, and another one was, this woman's legacy was definitely already very much cemented, but that doesn't make the passing any easier. And it just happened, I believe, yesterday, right?
Well, here's the thing. They announced it. It happened a few days before they announced it yesterday.
Right.
As in,
So,
like,
Russi Taylor.
yes, this one really hit me out of left field. Like, oh my god! I mean, that's.
Of course, best known as one of the, basically the voice of Minnie Mouse for as long as most of us have been alive.
Essentially, yeah, absolutely. She is our generation's from the '80s to now. She was our Mouse. She was the one that we like the one from the House of Mouse. I kind of knew best. Like that was her. That was Russi Taylor.
I know her, of course, also from The Simpsons, Dragon, and that's the thing, man. The Simpsons is just like I don't want to I don't want to get into the whole thing, but The Simpsons like really should have been canceled long ago at this point. But The Simpsons loses yet another iconic voice actor in their lineup, and she was Martin Short, a few other voices. I don't remember exactly which, but point being, yeah, Minnie Mouse definitely is the main one that we're going to know her for. But I mean, just I don't know, man. I feel like she's kind of like in this class of voice actresses that Dragon, it's kind of scary that the class of voice actresses that we grew up with, like the Christine Cavanaghs of the world, and
The
now
June Forays.
right, exactly. It's kind of scary that I don't know that there's not too many of them left nowadays. It's it kind of makes you feel older. It can, once again, it's like the whole talking about celebrity deaths. It always kind of puts a sobering reality check on how precious life is. But I don't know. It's a bummer, man. It really is.
It is. I mean, another thing she did Pebbles. Of course, not only just Pebbles. She's played teenage Pebbles. She's played kind of young. Basically, when baby Pebbles can speak, that's usually that's her. And again, the big one that you and I can connect to is that in Flintstone's Christmas Carol, when Pebbles speaks and she's all kind of heartbroken that Fred's not there. That's her.
God. Yeah.
I think she had a small role in DuckTales. Didn't she play young Donald Duck?
Yes, yes, she did. Yeah. Oh my God, that's actually, come to think of it, that's a total bummer that we can't get more young Donald flashbacks.
Well, again, they probably just going to recast her, but the fact of the matter is that it won't be the same.
It won't be. So, Dragon, also just to end this on kind of a lighter note, though, one of her last roles was doing Minnie in Runaway Railway, and importantly, that's going to be a hopefully, fingers crossed, a new breed of classic Disney attraction. And of course, it's the first attraction specifically developed around Mickey and Minnie as main characters. So I think that is definitely going to be a very, very appropriate lasting legacy for her, kind of like in the same vein of how Muppet Vision 3D was one of the last projects that Jim Henson worked on. And that's why I swear to God, I hope they never touch that in Hollywood studios, but that's a whole different story. but but yeah, I definitely think that Runaway Railway is going to be a good kind of sort of cements her legacy and kind of like is hopefully will be in the park for decades to come as like I don't want to say a monument to her, but kind of in a way. So, all right,
Well,
Minnie
I'm
is
sorry.
Minnie is the title after all. Go ahead.
Right. One more thing. So, I mean, I sorry, I remember there's a famous couple that I can only assume, given that she's been Minnie Mouse for as long as for as long as we've, for our generation, essentially. I remember there was Mickey and Minnie in real life. The voice actors were a married couple, and I can only wonder if perhaps her I can only wonder if she was part of that pairing that I'm thinking of.
Oh God, you know what? I'm gonna have to fact check this, but I want to say that the pairing that you're thinking of is the Mickey and Minnie that came on after Walt retired as being Mickey.
You know what? That's probably it. I think you're right. So probably, forget what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
think you're right. Okay. Point being, though, it's a loss again. Like, all the happy, like, even like once upon a Christmas Mickey. That's one of the go tos I have annually. And when I hear Minnie Mouse, I'm hearing Russie Taylor, and it's a shame that we're not going to be able to hear that anymore.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
all these
like I
people.
said, out of respect at this point for the voice actresses who have passed on The Simpsons, just cancel the damn thing already, for God's sake.
I mean, again, I think it's really tremendous, though, that she'll be around within the ride. I think that is kind of a nice kind of
Yeah,
lasting.
yeah, definitely,
And of
definitely.
course, on from so just to kind of a little nudge away from kind of the sadness of death. Let's talk about kind of the cool factor of death. Let's talk about Zombieland Double Tap.
Dragon, okay, I don't want to be too negative on this, but this is a movie that just feels like it's coming out like 5 years too late, and honestly, I don't care too much about it. The trailer doesn't really do a ton for me. And honestly, Dragon, honestly, I think the big reason why I'm kind of over this is because a couple reasons actually is because one, I just think that Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg, I just got kind of sick of that pairing after the Now You See Me movies. So it's like just seeing them again. It's like I don't that's like, and frankly, I'm kind of sick of Woody Harrelson in general. I kind of feel like he's just kind of doing his own like Woody Harrelson thing, movie to movie, and he's not really giving it a ton of effort these days. And three, Dragon, importantly, I just think the zombie genre is just like The Walking Dead is an embarrassment right now. It's just a total embarrassment. Like, I'm not saying that every zombie related project that's out right now is bad, but I'm saying the flagship one is literally a corpse of itself, pun intended. So, so hold on. Go ahead.
Well, wow. I mean, you really have it out for Woody Harrelson. I always get that in there. Like, my God, that was harsh. But but look, I mean, with zombie, I really like the first zombie, and of course, the reason I really flocked to it was the writing team on that. You had Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Of course, that's kind of how they made their bones, and that led them to Deadpool. And so I'm kind of in the bag for Zombieland 2. Whether I'm going to see it in theaters, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm definitely going to check it out because those writers are tremendous. not saying every project they've done has been a slam dunk, but usually, again, when they're paired up with the right people. I mean, Ruben Fleischer, they got really good work out of him with Zombieland. Again, we don't have Deadpool for Zombieland, so I'm definitely intrigued by this. But I kind of hear the whole like 10 years later of it all. It's like, I mean, do we necessarily need it 10 years later? Well, yeah, the ship has kind of sailed, but so rarely do you see them follow up on that thing 10 years later. So rarely do you kind of see it afterwards. Like, oh, you would have just.
Strike, and I think the better question is, so rarely do you see 10 years later sequels to comedies work out well. I mean, I think everyone wants to forget that Zoolander 2 is a thing, for example.
That's a fair point.
So, that's kind of what I'm worried about, because it's honestly, Dragon, the first Zombieland is like it's a fine movie. It's a good movie. I don't to me, looking back on it, it's a little bit style over substance for me.
But it was cool, though.
It was cool. It's definitely a cool movie. I feel like it's a cool movie in the same way that Stranger Things is a cool TV show. You know what I mean? It's not the most deep thing in the world, but it's definitely very flashy and stylish. So, so I don't know, man. It's like I'll probably check it out in theaters, but I'm not really. I can't say I'm excited about it. And honestly, the main reason I can't say I'm excited about it has nothing to do with the actual movie. It's just that I'm just so beaten down by the zombie genre. I find it hard to care about anything zombie related right now.
Well, see, here's the thing. So this is where you and I differ a little bit here.
Okay.
Again, I always try, historically, I've always tried to avoid the zombie genre. So that's why I have very few kind of zombie vices, if you will. As in, I have Zombieland. I mean, technically, there's Ash versus Evil Dead. So, I mean, I got those two. I'm trying to think if there's a third thing. That's the thing. It's just very sparing at this point for me with the zombie stuff.
Don't you watch iZombie?
Oh, yeah, you're right. There's that, too. Point is, I need... that's the third thing I was thinking of. Thank you.
Yeah.
But that's the things. Those are the... I need, a hook or, something kind of, fun with the zombie thing for me to really get into it. And, again, those three have that kind of that little X factor. iZombie, I love the lead in that show, and she's the reason to watch the show. Again, her being kind of the zombie of a million talents, depending what brain she eats, and it's a great premise. You have, I mean, she's almost very Tiki. She's very Farmiga-esque when she eats those brains. It's delightful. You have that. You have let's see. You have that. Of course, Ash vs. Evil is just really, again. If it weren't for the comedy in that show, I don't know if I'd be able to watch it, just given how graphic that stuff can be. Then you have again, Zombieland, though, again, just has that writing, just has that simplicity to it there. Where again, I'll put it to you this way. One thing I'm going to say before we move on here with Zombieland Double Tap is the one thing I'm really interested to see is if the status. I have hopes for the status quo. If they're going to actually have it take place 10 years later, and have what's the zombie status quo look like 10 years later? That's what I'm interested by in the trailer. I haven't really dealt with it a lot, so I mean that's where they could really have or lose my business. Seeing, okay, we're actually saying something about are we going to change the landscape 10 years later? Is it just going to become the same general thing? Because you'd imagine things might change. Like an apocalypse 10 years later.
No, I mean, I didn't really think about it like that. I mean, honestly, I didn't really even consider that it was a 10 years later type of deal. I just assumed it'd be just another story in the Zombieland universe, kind of like Mad Max style, but...
All right, well, it's a wait and see. I'll wait for a little bit more on it, but yeah, maybe regardless, I'm definitely going to check it out at some point, just on premise alone. So it's more Zombieland I'm going to check out. Whether I rush out to see it, we'll see. Here's one I believe you're very excited for. Am I correct?
I'm pretty excited for this one, Dragon. Yes, Jojo Rabbit, the new Taika Waititi movie. And Dragon, can I just say, honestly, I'm really, really stoked about the MCU. I feel like the MCU is the one studio that can actually lift up these up and coming filmmakers and actually elevate their careers and not kill them in the case of a Josh Trank or a Colin Trevorrow. Sorry. I don't know, because we saw it happen with we definitely we're seeing it happen a lot. I feel like John Watts has a promising career outside of the Spider-Man movies. Oh shoot, Dragon, I'm blanking on the name of the Black Panther. Ryan Coogler, of course, did a couple really solid movies outside of Black Panther, but now he's got a lot of recognition. And I feel like the same things. Yeah, and I feel like the same thing's happening with Waititi. It's his first two movies were very small, but had very, very big cult followings to them. And now, Dragon, I definitely think this is going to be the most mainstream, like, kind of like New Zealand verse Taika Waititi movie, if you will. And I call it the New Zealand verse because, of course, all his films are very much rooted in New Zealand comedy and culture and all that, and this doesn't look to be any different. So, so what do you think of Jojo Rabbit?
I'm more, well, first of all, with Waititi, I'm more excited for the next two things that he's doing, particularly the next things. The next thing I believe is as the Flash Gordon animated movie. That's what really has my interest with Waititi. He's directing that. But Jojo Rabbit, I gotta tell you, it's interesting. It's one of those trailers that really isn't much for establishing the premise, more of just like it's kind of catching your eye. Because if I understand the premise is, we have this kid who, I mean, in terms of premise, I believe specifically, so during the war, Scarlett Johansson plays his mother, and basically she's hiding a Jewish girl in the attic. Whether it's going to be a direct Anne Frank parallel or not, I'm not entirely sure. But whether it's going to actually be Anne Frank is the question I'm getting. The point being, the fact is, like, I believe, T, correct me if I'm wrong, is the Hitler imaginary friend in this?
Yes, Dragon, that is this movie.
That's pretty much, in terms of premise, it's all I really got. And basically,
that's
the
honestly all
kind of
they're really selling it on. And to tell you the truth, Dragon, I love that they're just kind of holding this up to a microscope. Like, of course, not to get too political with it, but Dragon, I love that we're back to kind of like the Mel Brooks style comedy of like, like treat Hitler like a fool. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what they're doing here. And it's not just treating Hitler like a fool, it's treating Hitler like kind of like a bumbling cartoon idiot in the eyes of a child. Like, that's a very, very specific version of Hitler that we're dealing with here. And Taika Waititi, of course, playing Hitler. Man, I just think he's just nailing it. I mean, it looks like, Dragon, basically the best way I can describe it is Taika Waititi is basically playing a live-action version of, like, a cartoony, over-the-top Hitler from a Disney propaganda film.
I don't know that maybe that's the best comparison, but it definitely looks. I love when we do a kind of a fun, irreverent take on a Hitler. I love it. I love when we do like. That's the thing. I love a fun Hitler. I love when we can just kind of play with it a little bit here. I mean, specifically, the one that instantly jumps to mind is the Hitler on Preacher. They do a tremendous job with the Hitler on Preacher. They made a likable Hitler, and I dig it. It's I won't spoil what happens there, but let me
I feel like our podcast is just getting blacklisted all over the place. Like, likable Hitler.
Again, just to emphasize the ridiculous parody of Hitler. That's what I'm saying. When we do something, we make fun of Hitler, it's funny. It is, that's the thing. Like, I like it when we do just sort of like, we see kind of Hitler in a new light that we hadn't really considered. Just kind of historically, just kind of like, it's like, okay, evil man, got it. But I'm not saying we need to put him under microscope. Like, let's see the complexities of Hitler. Let's see just what if we approach Hitler from a different tactic, where again he is going to end up being kind of a bad guy. But what if what we saw, like there was another kind of comedic side to him there. Well, there was like again Family Guy as well. Also, has like numerous takes on like kind of comedy Hitler. I think the best version is
Dragon Talk Show Hitler is like my favorite Hitler parody ever. I think.
I would say, of course, Just Giggle It has the has the Space Jam version of young Adolf Hitler. Hysterical, but I'm saying like for one of my favorites with Family Guy is when we have when Peter played Hitler's brother. Back when Family Guy was good, folks. I want to emphasize that we had Peter Hitler and he was the brother he was Hitler's favorite brother. The idea is that we had John Viner voicing Hitler, was just kind of like the stressed out guy, like in like Ava Braun like massaging his shoulder, saying it's okay. Just, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this guy. Just like that to me, I think that's anyway. Okay, we're getting off track here. The point being, but he looks like he's going to be really fun in the role. But I don't know, Joe's Rabbit it's kind of a head scratcher. I don't know if we're going to be rushing out to see this one, but again, if it kind of finds
this is the head scratcher, really? This, not the next movie we're going to talk about. This?
I mean, a head scratcher in the sense of I'm definitely going to watch it, but again, I don't think I need to see if they're going to sell me on seeing it in theaters until I get a little bit more here. Because again, this is more just like, ooh, it's something intriguing versus okay, you know what the movie is. I still know what the movie is. Like, okay, all right, we'll see.
Right. Oh God, Dragon, I cannot fucking wait for Cats. You don't even know. You don't even fucking know. It looks like such a glorious train wreck. I can't wait to see it go down. I mean, don't get me wrong. It looks like shit. And Dragon, frankly, I think the musical is shit. I really do. And I'm a musical guy. And I don't know. The musical has next to no plot. It's creepy as hell. I frankly don't like the aesthetics of the musical. And the music is just kind of okay outside of the memory song, which is the clear highlight that everyone pimps out. Oh, God damn, this looks like such a juicy train wreck, Dragon. It really, oh my God. It's so bombastic. It does not give a fuck about being mainstream. It looks so ridiculous. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I am so excited. Dragon.
Yeah, Cats. It all just seems very, it all seems so very strange and odd. It really does. It's like looking at an eye chart when you watch a trailer.
Feeding his food into another cat's mouth.
Like when you watch this Cats trailer, it's like looking at an eye chart. You know, it's like lobsters crawling out of its ears to quote a Christmas Story. You know, that's kind of what the reaction I describe the Cats trailer as. I mean, honestly, there's something really off about the way the cats look. From what I understand, what I heard is that they're in cat suits, but they've CG'd parts of it, so that's what's really adding the uncanny effect. There's the face is CG'd.
Oh yeah.
Like the face and the tail are CG, but apparently they're real cat costumes. Which again, here the face is ridiculous. This is what this means. Like I'm scratching my head, nonsense of like, well, enough. I know I'm going to see it. It's question one. In this case, I'm not going to see this. I'm scratching my head like, what were they thinking? Where it's like we have, as Donovan has put it here, we have Idris Elba, we have Ian McKellen, we have. We have Hudson. We have. It's like we're gonna. How are we?
Okay, what? I think hot take here. I think Idris Elba actually kind of looks a little badass in his pimp suit. All right, I think he's the one that gets off a little unscathed here.
This is what I'm getting at, Tiki. We have these esteemed actors, and we've put them in cat suits, and they agreed to be in cat suits. You know, and I'm sure they signed up with it purely because of the phenomenon they grew up with cats being. I'm convinced that they've lived through the cats boom of the '90s. Or like they guess the late.
Man, when it comes to like Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, don't even get me started, dude. You've got Phantom, you've got there's so many better ones than Cats, man. I mean, Cats is just like Jesus Christ Superstar, of course. Andrew Lloyd Webber. Of course, Cats is just like way at the bottom, man. It really is for me.
When I think Cats, I think of three things. Three things pop to mind.
Family Guy, I'm sure.
Well, no.
No, really? You don't think of Peter Griffin like running over the cat on stage with his car?
I mean, I do. I remember that, but it's not my go-to. You're right. That's funny as well. What I'm saying is, when I think Cats, I think of three things. One, I think of The Nanny, where you have the running gag in The Nanny is that Maxwell Shepard, the Broadway producer, he passed on Cats, and Andrew Lloyd Webber is his rival, and therefore Andrew Lloyd Webber's success over Cats. Because the idea is he thought Cats was stupid, and he passed on, and Andrew Lloyd Webber made a mint off it.
Because Cats is stupid, but I digress.
Well, that's the thing. That's the gag. And of course, the Rats from Hey Arnold. That's the big one I go to. That's probably the one I go to first. Like we're rats, and the whole it's Helga and Big Bob's mocking it relentlessly when they're watching it. And of course, I keep thinking of this really obscure one with The Terminal. The whole like Victor Navorsky. He came to New York for two reasons: one, to get the signature for the Peanuts can full of the jazz musicians' autographs, but the second reason, he was hoping to see Cats. And of course, he learns like when he shows up there, Cats closed. Oh, Mr. Navorsky, bad news to New York. Not only is closed, but Cats closed as well. Oh, Cats closed. Point being, Cats. I mean, you know what? To me, looks really off about them, Tiki. I think I kind of nailed it down after really looking at it. I think it's the fact they don't have feline noses. In terms of the makeup and everything.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's wrong about it, Dragon. That's one of them.
I mean, you look at X-Men First Class, where they did the cat beast thing from the comics. He has like kind of a feline lion looking nose. I mean, you kind of buy the effect more. You look at it here, and I'm not saying it would have saved it much. I don't know. Maybe it would have saved it. That's the thing I'm saying. You look at it, it's like, okay, this is a human cat hybrid versus just, okay, they're cats. And it kind of defeats the purpose if you're distracted the whole time looking at, well, if it's about cats, then they're people cats. That's kind of strange.
On that note, you know what's kind of bothered the hell out of me with this? The scale.
I know, right? It's weird.
The scale is way off. Like, since when are forks and knives bigger than actual cats?
That's what I'm talking about. This is what's so illogical to me about cats as a concept.
And yet sometimes it looks like the cats are like humanoid creatures just walking, like, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes they're tiny, sometimes they look like how a cat's, like about 3 feet tall or whatever, and then sometimes they look like full-on cat people. It's like the scale's all over the place.
Yeah, you know what's hysterical though? Like the one after they did, at least as far as I can see, they didn't get in this. Antonio Banderas. Why couldn't they get Antonio Banderas for this? If they can hit Ian McKellen, Idris Elba, you mean they tell me they couldn't have gotten Antonio Banderas?
Well, I've also heard a lot of people demanding that Mike Myers cameo in this.
Yeah, to me, that in the DNA of the whole thing, that's the most horrifying thing. Like, didn't we learn the last time we put a man in a suit? Didn't we learn? It just can't be done. Do it in animation. Don't do it in live action. All right,
Dragon. Honestly, I feel like this would be a project that would actually be well suited to the technology that the Lion King kind of put into play. That sort of like photorealistic CGI that like actually make them photorealistic cats. I think that would be an interesting. It'd be a departure from what they did in the on the stage. But the problem with this movie is that I feel like they're trying to replicate the style of the stage show so much that they don't understand like the difference between the two mediums. You know what I mean?
I know, and I think what you're speaking, I think the greater truth that you're kind of speaking to here, Tiki, is that many a time we take Broadway and we try to put it in film, and many a time it fails, it falters. There's always going to be either your Broadway snobs or always just people saying, you know what, not as good as the musical, or something's off about just filming it and putting it in a movie. Sometimes something disconnects. Sometimes just you'll never please anybody when you take something from Broadway and you try to turn it into a movie. Like most of the time, it's a crapshoot to say the least. Sometimes they'll have success, but many a time you'll hit a lot of like, well, what was the point of that? Or like that
honestly,
looked awful.
I would say Chicago was probably arguably the most successful one maybe ever.
Exactly. There's an example of a successful
at least in the modern era.
That's what I mean. You have sometimes varying points of success when you do that. And again, Donovan does make the point here that everyone will be seeing this instead of Disney Star Wars. Mark my words, he says.
Donovan, here's the thing. I'm saying there's a less than 0% chance that I'm going to see this first because you know what? I can come right on and say this. I am more excited about Cats than I am for Star Wars. Like honestly, with the Rise of Skywalker, saying this is one of the few people that still clings on to some defense of the Last Jedi. The Rise of Skywalker is just giving me nothing to latch on to. I mean, that might change at D23. We might get a mind-blowing trailer by all means, but I don't know, man. This Cats thing just looks way different. Like, Red Letter Media jokes all the time about Star Wars being the same shit over and over. And say what you will about Cats, but we ain't never seen a movie that looks like this.
It's going to sound harsh, but I don't need Rebel Wilson Cat. I won't be seeing it.
I mean, I will agree that Rebel Wilson Cat is the most cringy thing of the trailer.
I'm saying in a movie that isn't doing itself any favors, Rebel Wilson as a cat that's where I draw the line. It's like, okay, I'm out. I wasn't going to see this anyway, but now I'm out. I'm already feeling Rebel Wilson as it is. This is where I draw the line. Anyway.
What if it's just like what if it somehow turns out to be like the greatest movie of all time and everyone's just like it sweeps the Oscars?
Just the Oscars that tick me off is going to give something that is going to give like a special effects Oscar nod to this instead of something that deserves it. Like if it comes down like Endgame's not going to get any nominations and the effects and Cats gets one, I'm going to be upset.
All right.
No.
Anyways.
Anyway, it's two things. Don brought up two newsworthy things real quick, just to kind of shout them out here. In 2021, apparently Universal is making a Wicked movie. It's unsure if it's going to be live action or animation, but hey, Wicked movie. That could be.
Yeah, Donovan, that's definitely something that I've wanted for a long time. Personally, I would vouch for an animated Wicked movie. I've always viewed it as preferably a 2D animated Wicked movie.
Well, sure.
Oh my god! But yeah, of course, we've seen concept art for that, like what it would look like as a traditional Disney movie, like the character designs.
Honestly, overall, I'd be down for. I'd be down for a Wicked movie in any way, shape, or form.
Would you see it in theaters?
Depending on the trailer. If it doesn't turn out like this trailer, then yeah.
I don't think there's any way it could be as bad as this trailer.
I'm interested.
I mean, that's the thing, is that Wicked is I feel like Wicked is one of those shows that is like tailor made to be a movie, because it's got that kind of like big arc to it.
Right. Anyway, one other thing, really interesting, because I've rewatched it recently with the Blu-ray release. Alita, there's an Alita news reportedly. Donovan shares here. Also, an Alita prequel might be in the works. I think that's strange, because I want an Alita sequel before I want a prequel. But I'm down for anything because Alita does have good prequel fodder, with the fact the falling of the cities and the sky and everything. If they can have enough, I think it's too risky. Personally, it's like you want to get the sequel before you do the prequel stuff. But again, if they could hedge their bets, Tiki, you think about this. You have Alita, which of course ends where it ends. Where there's definitely some revenge that she wants to get, and then we kind of learn about the mysterious character from the first. We learn about Nova in the prequel, and like the whole falling the city, why this guy's such a bad guy. And then a third movie, then we get the sequel. That to me would be perfect if we could lock it in, though. I want to make sure we can lock that in before we take the game.
Right, sure.
Always I'd be down for a prequel, assuming we can lock in a second movie. If we can do that, then I'm for it. But anyway.
Okay.
All right, so last thing real quick, just saying that we don't have any information on this. We just have the okay for this. Sandman. Sandman is getting a Netflix show, and I think that's great.
Yeah, Sandman has been in the works for a long time, passing around from various studio to studio. So, honestly, Dragon, I don't want to be pessimistic about this. Like, by all means, like once it actually happens, once we see photos and a trailer and everything, then I'll get excited for it. By all means. But I'm saying, like, because Sandman is one of those projects that it feels like we get announcements for it every so often, and then it just doesn't go anywhere. I'm not necessarily going to hold my breath until we get more concrete details, at least.
Right. Here's the thing. So, assuming it goes the way the other Neil Gaiman works have, Neil Gaiman will probably be writing all the episodes like he did with Good Omens, which could be really good, especially for the Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's confirmed that he's going to be writing all the episodes, but assuming that he's going to be involved in it as he has been with the other stuff, the thing that really gets me out of my mind, the fact it's going to be on Netflix, is that Lucifer, of course, I do love the show Lucifer, and one of the many reasons I love that show is the fact that it does have a bit of a Sandman connect, and that the version of Lucifer and all that stuff there is a spin-off from the Sandman, as the comics go. And I love it. Again, they don't have to do this, but it'd be really cool if they did, though, because they did such a good job of Lucifer, and they even had Neil Gaiman in Lucifer.
Sure.
Is if when Lucifer shows up in the Sandman story, in the small role that he has, in the limited role that he has in that story, it would be Tom Ellis. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I guess transitioning then into the TV that we watched this month, not a ton. Okay, so I guess the big noteworthy thing was Stranger Things. Yeah. We already did a full spoiler cast on season 3, but suffice to say, I definitely think that, I don't know, Dragon, season 3 is I think it is kind of like my favorite season so far, with the asterisk that I do think it drags in the middle, but I feel like it has really high highs at the very beginning and the very end of the season. I love all the teenage drama we get at the beginning of the season. I love Angry Hopper and all that. And then at the end of the season, I just think the last 2 episodes are incredible from just a production point of view, and just really, really, high entertainment from just a pacing and effects and everything just really coming together very well. It's emotional. I don't know. Like I said, I do think the middle few episodes, like maybe episodes 4, 5, 6, I want to say, do kind of drag out a little bit in terms of like, all right, this is like, it's Stranger Things 101. You know, Will Byers has a spidey sense, and Eleven's moving things with her mind, and Joyce and Hopper are on some kind of weird mission, and you know, but I mean, that's the thing, Dragon, is I don't want this show to get too formulaic, and I do hope that season 4 might potentially be its last, especially if we, you know, if we reunite the gang around Thanksgiving like we said we would. That'd be a natural way to continue the story after the ending of season 3. But yeah, I did very much enjoy it. I'm not like a big super fan of Stranger Things like some people are, but I do kind of casually enjoy it. I kind of look at it as, you know, just a very well done popcorn entertainment. Nothing wrong with that.
Right. You know, for me, Stranger Things season 3, it's to me, season 3 is the first season after the story's been told, because the first 2 seasons, we tell we tell the story in the first season, then of course some unresolved stuff that we take care of in season 2. So this is like, okay, everything's status quo is like it's kind of set. Okay, everyone's we've seemingly have dispatched with the Upside Down. Everybody's together. We're all good, and then of course then we're telling like, okay, now something else happens, and that's kind of what this season is. And nothing against that. I think it's very entertaining, and just this is them testing the waters for, okay, can we make a real like a series out of this show? Can we really can we do seasons after we've told the story that we want to tell? That's kind of what season 3 is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's got a solid structure. I didn't care for the cliche breakup at the start. I really didn't, because I just felt like, okay, now we're just like we know they're gonna get back together. Why? It's like a whole will they, won't they? Like, why are we doing this now?
I mean, here's the thing, Dragon. The breakup was, yeah, that's fine.
I like what he does with Hopper, obviously, but I know it's a necessary evil. But it's like, do we have to?
No, I'm just saying, I like all the character dynamics at play at the beginning of the season. I really like the whole dynamic of Will and Lucas being more focused on, or I'm sorry, Mike and Lucas being more focused on girls, while Will wants to play D&D. That thing has been kind of memed to death, but I still like it in the context of the show. I really like Max and Eleven bonding. You know, that might lead to the breakup, but still, I think on its own,
I know that's
good
the thing. That's the necessary evil, because that's great.
Yeah.
But again, like, do we have to do such a cliche? Like, she just can't like explain that. Well, Hopper, you put the fear of God into me. That's why I had to break up with you.
I mean, honestly, Dragon, I feel like we already touched on this. I'm more warm on it than you are, but I feel like it's just kind of like realistically how kids do act in relationships. And keep in mind, these are kids. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they wouldn't act rationally. They would, they wouldn't handle things like adults because they aren't adults.
Anyway, fair enough. But let's see. So it's of course I think season 3, what really has going forward, and the reason it kind of has something a little over the other two, is that this one really possibly reflects the 80s more than the other 2 seasons have. Not the other 2 seasons haven't reflected the 80s, as you can definitely tell, but I mean, this season had reflected kind of the pro-America versus Russia films of the 80s and its DNA, and I think that was a lot of fun. The season 3 is a lot of fun. It's kind of like it's them basking in the fact, okay, we got some success under our belt.
The main setting was really, really cool and really well handled.
Yeah, so it's like, we have some credit under our belt here. Let's have some fun with it. Let's get ambitious. And season 3 is ambitious, and I respect it.
Mm. All right, so Dragon, after we watched the Frasier Christmas special from season 6 for Christmas in July, I decided to start binging Frasier. And Dragon, I don't want you to get too overly excited. I'm not too far into it. I'm about maybe 10 episodes in. But I gotta say, man, I am just absolutely I adore this show. Oh my god, it's one of those things where it's like it kind of, this might sound ridiculous, Dragon, but bear with me, all right? It kind of reminds me of the first time I watched The Godfather. And it's like I kind of had this light bulb moment of oh my god, this is what people have been talking about. Yeah, this is just I mean, Dragon, I don't know. I'm very early on in the show's run, and I can already tell, if it just gets better from here, then it's fantastic stuff. It really is. It's just the timing on it is absolutely impeccable. Each character just adds to the lineup in such a great way. I love all the running gags. Martin Crane just adds such a big heart to the center of the show, and I'm just absolutely in love with that character. I will tell you my favorite episode, Dragon, so far that I've come across. and it happens very early on in the season. And I believe the episode is called Dinner at 8.
Well, to have seen, he's got to refresh me a little bit on. Just give me any. Just give me,
It's
like,
the
what's
one
the
where Niles and Frasier want to take Martin out for a sophisticated dinner as like a night on the town.
Oh, is this the one with the steakhouse at the end?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, I love that. That's a great one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right. That easily my favorite so far of the 10 or so I've watched. I mean, I love that episode. I love like Dragon. I love just the truth that Martin just lays down on the two at the end of that episode. Like, you know, like your mother appreciated the finer things, but she would never act like this. Like she would never look down on good folks. Like, you know, like this is good food, and all the people in this restaurant are enjoying it, and you two jackasses are too above yourselves to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, it hits so hard, Dragon. It really does. Yeah, and I also like the fact that the show has a little bit of a continuity to it, like not too much, not so much that I feel, you know, like I feel like I could jump to any episode and be able to follow it, but it does kind of, you know, like we have stuff like the you know, the blossoming flirtmance between Niles and Daphne in the works. You know, that's kind of in its early stages of Niles just being completely like obvious about it to everyone but Daphne. That's all fun stuff. Eddie is just fucking amazing in some scenes.
Possibly the best trained TV dog you've ever seen.
Possibly. Dragon, I will say there was one episode that really didn't hold up very well, all right?
Right.
It was the episode where Martin has the telescope and he's like looking at the neighbor through the window and they form that relationship. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, but wasn't the gag like he was just watching the TV through there? Like, was it?
No. It was like a full relationship. Like they were sending each other notes and.
Oh, right, that one, yeah.
And I don't know. I just thought that one just kind of fell on its face. I didn't really think there. But anyways,
there's one that I don't know if it's in season 1, but it might be in season 2. There's one you should be on the lookout for. It's a really good one. If you like that steakhouse one, I think you're gonna really like it. I think it's about Dukes. It's like Dukes and it's either Dukes We Hardly Knew You or Goodbye Dukes. Like one of those things. It's really good.
But suffice to say, Frasier has just kind of become like a nice routine for me. Like whenever I need a nightcap or a good laugh or
a glass of sherry.
Yeah, exactly. Something to just lighten the mood. I mean, it's excellent comfort food, Dragon. It really is. It's high class stuff. I can see how it's a classic, of course.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay, so I have watched stuff too.
Ooh.
So I watched the big thing. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it in by the end of the month because I've been kind of on a. I'll talk about when I finish it with Chuck. I've been kind of on a Chuck kick right now. Basically, you are with Frasier. I'm almost done, Chuck. So I'm going to wait till probably next month before I bring that one up. But I took a break from Chuck because Chuck was kind of waning a little bit at a certain place. Like, you know what, Chuck can wait. Hold my beer, Chuck. anyway, no. In all seriousness, I was The Boys, the big Amazon show, The Boys, because they've been hyping this up. This was also hyped up at Comic-Con, and I figured, well, I'm probably going to watch it like in a week or so after.
So who plays Richard Sherman?
You know, I know I had the same thought when I heard the title, but here's the thing. So I completely forgot about this. I've seen this, but I forgot about it until I looked into it, like what the source material said. The Boys is. It's a show on Amazon. I believe it's about 8 episodes. It is based off a comic. It's based off a Garth Ennis comic. Now, for those folks out there who don't know who Garth Ennis is, Garth Ennis is he has probably the most when you think of like the Punisher at his best, like kind of the violent kills of the Punisher, like him fighting the Russian, him like normally fights the Russian in the Thomas Jane Punisher movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's Garth Ennis. Like Garth Ennis is like the gritty. He's like the gritty, knuckle-down, drag-out, for like the Welcome Back Frank stuff that we talked about in the Punisher Netflix show. Like, all that's Garth Ennis stuff. Of course, that's what he's kind of known for in terms of the Marvel circles. But Garth Ennis is one of those creators he's done stuff all over the map, and he likes to go really gritty with his stuff. He does. Like dark, black comedy gritty, you know? Of course, the biggest thing that people know him from, aside from like doing stuff on the Punisher, is Preacher. That's his bread and butter. He's really well known for Preacher. And he did this other series called The Boys. And The Boys, in essence, the best way I can describe the show is it's kind of Preacher meets Watchmen. That's what The Boys is. It's a superhero show, but it is by far as I've seen a lot, the most cynical take on superheroes I've ever seen.
Oh wow. Oh, that's saying something.
I've read the book. I have not read the book. I don't have. I basically did. I read through the outline of the entire story of the boys in comic
Uh-huh.
form. I mean, I got a sense of what the book is. I see where the deviations are, and based on just reading the description, I think I like the series more. Bear in mind, only it's not really. That's not a solid comparison, but I did like the series. I did. I will say this: it is not for everyone. It really isn't. Like this show, it's kind of like this is mocking the Snyder DCEU mercilessly. That's what this show is. It's kind of taking that as like it's imagine if you made a show about superheroes within basically you kind of use the Snyder the way everybody talks about Snyder in the DCEU in like the most like vitrioled way, and they made like a dark comedy out of it. Let's make fun the way Snyder kind of like is kind of the Snyder at his worst when he's talking about superheroes. Let's do that. But again, it's like darker than Preacher. And let's say that it's really swinging for the fences in a gutsy, admirable way. Like, oh man, they're really going
Does
for
anyone
it
get
here.
raped in prison?
Not in prison.
Not in prison. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's what I'm saying, Tiki. You're not far off. Again, Tiki, the darkest stuff with superheroes I've ever seen.
All right, all right.
But it has a nice style to it. It's kind of like imagine if you had a really good show. I've talked about Memoirs back, Umbrella Academy, but like an uncensored like TVMA Umbrella Academy. That's kind of what The Boys is. Where it's Watchmen. It's Preacher unbound through the vein of Watchmen with the superheroes. That's what it is. It's got a solid cast. For example, they had a few Netflix stars in it. Erin Moriarty. I just love her name, by the way. Erin Moriarty. Erin Moriarty, Hope Schlottman from Jessica Jones. She's one of the few good heroes, like one of the few like well-intentioned superheroes in the show. She's an actual good character. She's really good.
Right.
One is I think this might be up your alley, but be warned, it skews really dark. All right.
I mean, I like dark, so
What I'm saying is like this might not be Jacob Gulliver's cup of tea, but it might be yours. You know what I mean?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Anyway, so they got renewed for a second season, and I mean the weird thing is all the episode titles are based are names from chapters of the books of the comics, so like the arcs in the comics. They're all kind of based off chapters of that. So they don't really follow them to a T. They're really telling their own story. But again, I wonder if they've told the ending of the original book series. The point is, I think season 2 is going to be a lot more of original. Like they're going in an original direction based off the content. Just in case, the one main gripe I do have with the show, though, is that they don't explain what the boys are. The idea is that the boys are the anti-heroes who are going up against the superheroes. So basically, our main cast, the guys we're following, they're in the comics they're called the boys. That's their group name, but they don't call themselves by it. But every time like the show's name pops, it's like the cold opens, like something happens, then like stamped right on the screen, the boys. That's what the boys means. Okay. I think you might get a kick out of it, so it's your call. But every episode's not a major commitment, but it's something that you've never seen before. I'll say that much. All right. Okay, Three Below is real quick. So I watched part 2 of this. They kind of upload the Netflix animated shows in kind of 2 parts these days, just kind of seeing how they perform, I guess. So Guillermo del Toro has done. He kind of signed on to do kind of a cinematic trilogy of DreamWorks animated shows, which I highly recommend to everybody. As I mentioned with Troll Hunters with Anton Yelchin show, that's tremendous. And Kelsey Grammer's in that too. Dick. He plays the main character. He plays the supporting character. He plays Blinkus. He plays like the mentor to Anton Yelchin's character. He's wonderful. Mm-hmm. And all of these connect. So they have characters set up in that show, and this bleeds into Three Below. So the first one's about trolls. The second one, this show is about aliens. And then the next series is going to be called Wizards, about wizards and magic and stuff. So this continues the stuff I liked about. It's kind of it's in Arcadia. It's all set in Arcadia. All these series. It's kind of an Arcadia verse, if you will. And this is kind of the second chapter in that grand story. So like after the big status quo shift of Troll Hunters, people know a lot more than they used to. There's a bit of crossover, and there's a point. Long story short, I recommend Three Below, but you have to watch Troll Hunters first. That'd be my recommendation. Okay.
All right. So finally, let's get into it. Let's get into the thick of things in July. Of course, starting with Spider-Man: Far From Home, the big release of the month. Dragon, of course, we already did a big spoiler cast about it. You know what? I'm going to say this much, Dragon. After marinating on it, I don't think I can say it's as good as Spider-Man 2. It's up there. It's up there. I think I'm going to kind of comfortably place it as my third favorite Spider-Man movie after Spider-Verse and Spider-Man 2. Uh, like, don't get me wrong. I think it's a massive improvement over Homecoming. I really do. And Homecoming, in its own regard, was a massive improvement over the Amazing movies. But I just think Spider-Man 2 is just a classic, and it's so earnest. It wears its heart on its sleeve in such a lovable way. There's so many iconic scenes with Spider-Man 2. Maybe in 10 years, I'll feel differently, and I'll put Far From Home over Spider-Man 2. As of now, I can in all good conscience knew that. Like, honestly, it was kind of the adrenaline rush of, like, seeing J. Jonah Jameson back that kind of made me made that initial statement. But Far From Home, I mean, it's still a fantastic MCU movie. It's definitely way better than what I was anticipating from it. And, this is coming, like, basically is what I'll say about it, Dragon, is, is someone who really, like, thought Homecoming was just okay, mostly because it lacked pathos and it lacked stakes. I think Far From Home succeeded in a really good way with giving Peter Parker stakes in the MCU. So I think in that regard, it was a really big success of a movie for me.
So Far From Home, I felt was it's kind of the perfect summer blockbuster epilogue piece to Endgame. Because it's summer blockbuster. It's kind of like I think it kicked off the kind of the summer of it all really right. I know it wasn't like the very beginning of the summer, but it feels like a really great, like if you have like a summer movie, this really feels like it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it does also function as an epilogue piece to Endgame, and I feel kind of complements it very well. It's not trying to top Endgame; it's just trying to kind of like give it kind of like that. It's the bridge between Phase 3 and Phase 4 in many respects. And again, it continues. Just long story short, it continues everything I love about Spider-Man, the MCU, specifically by all the Mysterio stuff we do. I mean, my God, I love everything. Mysterio is the best part of the movie. Everything we do with him, with the world building, with the way he connects within the MCU, and just like in terms of we finally see some Mysterio stuff that people have been dreaming of, which is with the idea of like if we could ever get Mysterio into a Spider-Man movie, we could do all these great visuals with him. We do all those great visuals with him in this movie, and Gyllenhaal's great, and again he parallels Peter Parker and
Gyllenhaal is pretty understated until the big reveal, but then once we get to the big reveal, he just he just pulls the mask off and just he becomes an entirely different character, and I love it.
Yeah, and it's just the point is like I do really love Far From Home, but by the same token, I will say this, and this is like part of the thing of like even with Homecoming, it continues the stuff I loved in Homecoming, but also continues the stuff I wasn't so in love with Homecoming. And it's not a it's not a major negative, it's just a taste thing. Where there were a few drawbacks, like the hit or miss high school humor for me. Like again, that still kind of is present. That Flash Thompson, where I'm still not crazy about him. But that's just me though. It's nothing against the movie. It's just not my taste. But I would say the only drawback to the movie though is again we do kind of waste some time with that here, and where maybe we could trim a few minutes out of like okay, it's just a do high school comedy that may or may not dazzle the audience. We don't need that. We don't need that drone scene. I'm going to say that, but not the drone thing, not the big drone scene. We need that one. We don't need the drone scene on the bus. I'm going to say that really we don't need it. That's what I'm saying. Get that scene out of there. I think I'd be a lot more okay with the movie. But honestly, it's a fun movie. Again, it's a great summer Marvel movie. It's excellent.
Arguably the best cliffhanger that we've ever had in the MCU, barring maybe Infinity War.
A mind-blowing first step into the new status quo of Phase 4 with that post-credit scene. Excellent. Okay.
All right, so Dragon, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, this is a big one. So hang on to your hats, folks, because this might be a long one. I've got a lot to say about this movie. So, Dragon, I gotta say, when I went into the theater, I had kind of reserved expectations about it. I really did. Because from everything I'd been hearing about it, is that, it's more of a dialogue character piece. It doesn't really have all that much of a plot. And it's a little overly long. Dragon, all those things were problems that I had with The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight is honestly maybe on the lower end of my Tarantino movies. It might be my least It's either that or Death Proof. It's probably like my second least favorite Tarantino movie after Death Proof, I would say. Like, Hateful Eight really didn't land with me like it should have. And so I was really, really worried going into I got to admit, everyone was stoked for this movie, but after Hateful Eight, I was kind of nervous for this movie. I was, because if this was going to be like another Hateful Eight, then I don't know. I didn't want to get into an era where like, oh, Tarantino's past his prime. I didn't want that to happen. Dragon, I can comfortably say that didn't happen. I love this movie. Oh my God. And you know what's trippy, Dragon? It's not even my favorite movie of the month. Like, I love it, and yet it's not even my favorite movie of the month. Mostly the reason why it's not my favorite movie of the month is that I do kind of prescribe to, like, yeah, it is a little meandering. It doesn't have all that much of a plot to it. But holy shit, I mean, just as a collection of scenes unto itself, oh my God. I mean, talk about a movie where it's like, I think the sum of its parts in this situation, Dragon, is almost greater than the whole. Because on an individual level, Dragon, there's so many wonderful scenes in this movie. I mean, oh my God, like, I don't want to get too spoilery into this movie, but just kind of like naming off some of them. We have the conversation that Leo has with the little girl. We have the flashback with Bruce Lee, and I love how that ends with Brad on the roof, and he's just like, yeah, fair enough. I love how that plays out. I think the sequence at the ranch might be the highlight of the whole film for me. I mean, there's so many good scenes, Dragon. I mean, this movie is just brimming with iconic scenes. The one thing is I don't necessarily think everything comes together. Everything comes together fine. Everything comes together really well. My one question is, I'm still kind of scratching my head on to, like, did this really need to be almost 3 hours long? I'm still kind of like, I'm not really sure. There's still some question marks I have in terms of, like, did Margot Robbie need that much screen time in the movie? I feel like we could have gotten the point of Sharon Tate in this movie across in maybe about half the screen time that Margot Robbie has. So, Dragon, that honestly, the only reason why the movie that's my favorite movie in the month is my favorite movie of the month is that I feel like that's a movie that's just really, really tight from a narrative perspective. But I will say that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is by and large more impressive, more ambitious. I mean, just the acting, Leo and Brad are just phenomenal with each other. I honestly think they both deserve Best Lead Actor nominations for this thing. Uh, I mean, just the setting, Dragon, it evokes a time and a place so magnificently well. It's absolutely immersive and transformative in that way. Um, Dragon, here's the thing. It very much reminds me of American Graffiti, and I haven't heard this thrown around for this movie at all. And of course, two completely different movies. But American Graffiti is a movie that, again, relied on, like, there was a lot of driving around in American Graffiti. It was most of American Graffiti took place in a very contained amount of time. There were, like, a lot of branching subplots in American Graffiti. The radio had a big role in American Graffiti. And while American Graffiti showcased kind of like the beginnings of the 60s and the last burst of the innocence of the 1950s, this movie kind of showcases, like, when the Summer of Love kind of took that turn for the worst, and when things got weird at the end of the 60s, and kind of like, the country was kind of like at this unrest. Like, oh man, I mean, I could write an essay on this thing, man. I mean, I definitely want to see it again in theaters for sure. I mean, as of now, Dragon, I liked it so much that I can pretty comfortably say I might call it maybe my third favorite Tarantino movie after Pulp Fiction and Django, Dragon. I liked it that much. And one of the reasons I like it so much is that it doesn't necessarily feel like a Tarantino movie. It feels more personal than that. There's so many things about this movie, Dragon. The fact that a lot of the screen time is like footage of Rick Dalton movies and different aspect ratios, and oh man, okay, go ahead. I'm gonna give you the floor. I do really love this movie, just what it's trying to do. It doesn't work for everyone, but it absolutely landed with me.
So this Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this is Tarantino having fun with old Hollywood. And I myself, I love the culture of old Hollywood. I love my favorite part of this movie. One of my favorite parts of this movie, and there are a lot of really great parts. So I can't say it's my favorite part that I rewatch, but it's I love the opening interview of the movie. I love when we sit down, we have this great interview here. It just feels like, okay, we're hitting all the right notes. We're off the ground running with getting all the little details, all the little touches, the way we just kind of establish the camera angles. We just have kind of the old time, you just kind of an interview for your favorite TV show being the old Western that Rick Dalton's on. All this is great. And this is Tarantino having fun with all the little touches, all the ins and outs of, again, believe it or not, again, we're not really, obviously movies do play into this, but it's really TV focused. And that kind of threw me, we're really kind of spending time on the old TV Western, kind of the bonanza of its day, sort of, the Gunsmoke of its era. And I love the ins and outs, how we have a continuous shot where basically we just kind of okay, well, it's really tricky when you cut. Therefore, you want to keep the film rolling. We kind of have fun with that. Basically we're balancing three stories in this piece. We are, and of course, as I think we can be in agreement of, DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. I love Brad Pitt especially, but they're both excellent. Brad Pitt's story, of course, as Donovan kind of has echoed in the comments, of course, Brad Pitt has a very memorable sequence on the ranch. In that sense, that scene is very tense. You don't know you're on the edge of it.
Classic Tarantino right there.
It is. I mean, there's so many examples of classic Tarantino. Of course, a Tarantino movie, so we really shouldn't be saying that because it's classic Tarantino. Well, it's a Tarantino movie. But
that's the thing is I felt like Hateful Eight had very little classic Tarantino in it, honestly.
Anyway, so it's we're spending time on the right things. The only knock against this movie, I have a very minor one. It's not even a negative thing. It's just a negative thing where in terms of if we could save time on this movie, I know exactly what scene to cut. Okay. But I like the scene. I like it, but it just doesn't belong in this movie. Sharon Tate watching herself in the movies.
That's the thing. It goes on Dragon. That we cut away to that so much that I feel like we could see it. I don't necessarily think we need to cut that scene. I feel like we just need to trim it.
Because it's nice, and of course we inserted her into the movie and stuff, and it's all great. I love that. I love what we're saying there. It's kind of Tarantino. It feels very Tarantino-esque, but it's do we really need to follow her as she's walking to the movie and then cutting back to it? And it's compared to all the other more interesting stuff going on there. I mean, it's good, but it's we could have made some time. I mean, at the very least, we could have cut 15 minutes from this movie, and maybe that could have helped. I don't know. I don't even want to cut 15 minutes. I'm just saying, for practicality's sake, I think I don't know. You know what I mean?
Okay, Dragon, I will say that this movie did not feel like almost 3 hours long. It felt like a solid 2-hour movie in a good way. You know what I mean? It really flew by for me. By the time we got to the third act, and I realized that we were kind of wrapping up, I was I was honestly kind of surprised. I was oh wow, we've been going on for this long already. I was just so invested in it that I wasn't even thinking about the fact that it was already 2 hours into a 2-hour 45-minute movie.
I'm gonna have to dance around this, obviously, so I can avoid spoilers. But I have to talk about this, right? So, of course, many people are going to this movie, and the original sell of this movie was Sharon Tate's in the movie, therefore you're going to do the Manson stuff. Manson will play a role in this movie, and he does, but not in the way people think, not in the way people are expecting. Charles Manson does make an appearance in this movie, of course. The Manson family, of course. Charles Manson, he's not the guy there; he's the guy pulling the strings. Therefore, you don't expect a lot of Manson. But let me tell you this. I hate cults. I'm sick of cults. Personally. For anyone in cults out there, I apologize. I don't
Wait, are you saying this just in terms of as a storytelling device?
Honestly, mainly as a storytelling device, but honestly, cults as a whole, I'm not crazy about them personally. But I mean, here's the thing: I hate cults as a storytelling device. In that, every time they pop up, the cliche of cults, where I don't know why. It's not a negative thing for cults. preferentially, I don't like cults as a storytelling thing. I would like Riverdale, for example, at season 3, which is kind of an iffy season, they introduce cults, and I like, oh god, I hate cults when they pull the old cult strip. In the Runaways, they do a decent thing with cults, but again, it's like there's a little
I feel
bit.
like The Leftovers might be the best cult show ever made.
Well, that's the thing. I don't even. That's the thing. You know my feelings on the cult and the Leftovers. Like, I have very little patience for cults. Mainly in fiction, but in general, the idea of like the cult mentality just never grabs me. And that's the thing. So basically, without saying anything, the way we approach the cults in this movie, and you know what I'm talking about for those of you who've seen the movie. I relished it. I did more than I should have, but I did. So I mean, just in essence, so the climax of this movie is great. And I think we have to dance around a little bit here. I think the climax of the movie is great. I think it fits into the theme of the movie, the whole Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, very well. The movie is quite delightful, and I'm eager to see it again. But I'd probably be waiting for the home delease to see it again. Not because didn't like the first, but it's a long movie. I'd wait for it.
Well, there's a particular callback in the third act, like very late on in the movie, involving Leo's character. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely, because I'm thinking of a different call. There's one callback that I feel we could have stripped that because it's basically used the same footage again. I was like, okay, maybe we don't need that.
It's in. I don't want to. I'm kind of dancing around it, but it's in regard to a certain thing that Leo uses.
Oh yeah, I love that. Oh, yeah, I know exactly. Yes, that callback's great. Yes.
Yeah, Dragon. I've heard people compare that to like Tarantino did in one movie what the MCU like built up 20 movies to get to an Endgame. Just like that specific thing being called back was just such an audience like fuck yeah kind of moment, Dragon. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to discredit the MCU, but like the MCU does build upon itself, of course. And that's where a lot of the fuck yeah comes from with the MCU. But this movie gave us a definitive fuck yeah moment, like a huge fuck yeah moment out of like something very, very simple.
That is true. That is true. Again, I don't think the Endgame thing's necessarily fair, but I understand the same.
Endgame's not fair, but what is fair, the comparison that I did hear made was Thor and Groot and Rocket showing up in Wakanda in Infinity War. Like a reaction like that, where it's like, it's not necessarily the biggest part of the movie, but it's like a big crowd pop kind of thing.
Right. Okay. I guess in essence, the last thing I really have to say on is that look. Again, we can talk about this movie all day, really. Because
Leo's freaked out in the trailer where he's like half method acting still.
Mm-hmm.
You piece of shit! You piece of shit!
Point is, look, the movie's tremendous, obviously, but I think with the disclaimer that look, like most of Tarantino's stuff, it's not for everyone. I think this movie is for one. It's for a number of people. It's for the Tarantino fans. It's for the film buffs. It's for like kind of the industry people. It's people who were in the industry. I'm sure from the people of Just Giggle, from what we've heard, they got a real kick out of it as well. And of course, them kind of knowing how that
grew up around the Los Angeles area. People who lived in Los Angeles in 1969. This is going to be surreal watching it.
You know what I'm saying? I think for certain people they're gonna love this movie, but I feel like a general audience walking in. Like I brought some people with me who aren't necessarily in the know of Tarantino, and they were like, scratch their heads a little bit. Where it's like, I mean, they've seen Tarantino. It's just the fact that they're not really like you going to this movie. They kind of went essentially blind.
Dragon, my first Tarantino movie was actually Kill Bill Volume 1, and it was kind of a head scratcher at first when I didn't have my mind wrapped around his style. I will admit.
Real quick, just to hype it up for anyone who hasn't seen it, there is a scene. There is a scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that is akin to a really disturbing scene in Kill Bill Part 2 with Daryl Hannah. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So horrifying. Oh god, that's the kind of stuff that sticks with me. Oh god, it's so horrifying. But
most of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is very, very relaxed and chill, and I kind of dig that about the movie.
I know, that's the thing. I don't mind that we don't have like a really big kind of driven plot of the whole thing. I don't mind.
It's very much kind of like a day in the life of these two really interesting characters. You know what I mean?
We have some. I think we have some natural crossover. Basically, it's kind of the old adage of the guns on the table. And it's going to be used. It's kind of what we had built in. With we know these people are kind of like there's a bit of a crossover effect with our three stories here. and that might pay off, and of course it does. And that's the thing. So in this movie, it's of course also I'm going to say this, folks. There's a really excellent Tiki. Did you say to the end of this movie?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, of course.
That's the thing. So there was something. I won't say what. You know me. I love that.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I can only assume that's. I'll be shocked if that wasn't a real thing during that play during the credits. Like it's not something you see, folks. It's kind of a better version, like the audio thing we had at the end of Endgame. We can play it something on the audio of the credits, but it's something a lot better here. Where we have like it's a really elaborate, really awesome. You show it kind of ache into what the what the '60s were about.
Right.
Anyway, so
Okay.
Once Upon a Time definitely it was an excellent film. One of the highlights of July for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, Dragon, this and the other movie I have are kind of neck and neck with each other. And like I said, I mean, in terms of like just sheer raw acting and dialogue and cinematography and all that, this has the other movie beat. The only thing that I think the other movie has this beat on is sheer story and narrative. And so we'll get into that. I mean, by all means, like this time next month, I might say like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the better movie. They're both fantastic in my eyes.
Let's have actually one other mutual one that we do have is one that is not. That's kind of the antithesis of Once Upon a Time.
Oh, it really is. It really is.
Stuber.
Oh God, what a Dragon! This is the Hitman's Bodyguard of this year.
Oh, come on, that is. I love the hit. I really enjoyed the Hitman's Bodyguard.
So I take it you didn't like Stuber.
I was very let down by Stuber.
Dragon, I actually think I kind of prefer Stuber to the Hitman's Bodyguard, to tell you the truth.
Man,
I'm not saying it's a good movie. I don't like either of them very much, but I think Stuber at least has a more interesting premise, whereas the Hitman's Bodyguard is much more cookie cutter. Like I appreciated the Uber gags. Like as someone who does use Uber quite a bit, I appreciated the carpool gag and the shots at Uber Eats and that kind of stuff. That was all fun. I don't know, like Blind Dave Bautista was fun. I honestly thought that Camille Mangiani was he was good. I just think it was a very, very, very insubstantial movie that I'm not going to remember in T-3 seconds. Yep,
okay,
already forgot.
Okay, don't go with T-minus. Now it just sounds like we're waiting for libel here.
I'm just referencing Jeremy Johns. I'm just like, yep, already forgot.
I'm saying, let's not try to pull that. At least give credit who it's from on that one.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Here's the thing, Tiki. I was so looking forward to Stuber. I was, and in the sense of it's perfect for like a summer movie. Like it's like a summer comedy, And Hitman's Bodyguard, I will fully admit, Hitman's Bodyguard, it's not Yates, but it's fun. It's just kind of like a fun thing to put on. It's like okay, it doesn't make a lot. It has a very generic plot, but you know what? Sam Jackson, Ryan Reynolds. That's a pairing that cracks me up. That's really funny.
Uh-huh.
But Stuber, on the other hand, I'm so let down by it because we have a great pairing in Kumail Nanjiani and Dave Bautista. That's a great pairing. Basically, this to me is an example of a manufactured comedy that is corrupted by a bloated story where less is more. The trailer of this movie, I think this movie had a great trailer. I really do. The trailer sold me. It was like, okay, Uber driver and cop, they got a mission. He loops the Uber driver. He's kind of stuck with him on mission. He kind of gets the swing of things, meets just like craziness ensues. He has some fun action beats. It's quite funny, and you have the Kumail humor. That's a good sell. All that's there. I'm there for it. But the movie isn't that. It's like we have to that stuff's in there, but you've seen all the good parts in the trailer with that. It's just blown. We have to necessitate. We have to give it a story. We have to give it a plot. Where this movie doesn't need a story. It doesn't need a plot.
The daughter character was just completely inconsequential, for example.
I'm saying, I mean, she as an actress, she was okay, but as a story, it's like, well, we're just wasting time now. This whole that's the thing, Blind Bautista, whether it's funny, it's the fact that I don't need him to be blind. Why does he need to be blind?
Well, he's blind, so he can't drive. It's a very convenient plot device.
That's a good point. You know what? Maybe cars in the shop.
Right, yeah.
On his cars in the shop. That would have done the trick for me.
Well, honestly, just to play devil's advocate here, if it was that simple, he could have just pulled like police, I need to borrow your vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But that's what I'm saying. I wasn't expecting much from the movie. We had to do the thing where you do sometimes in these movies. We have to give them like a bloated plot of like certain things need to happen to justify. Oh, here's why these two guys need to be paired together. But that's not even the problem. Tiki. The problem is we have stuff like okay, there's the girlfriend plot. Where there's a girl he kind of likes, but she's dating other guys.
That was super cringe. That was the most awkward thing in the whole movie for me.
I'm saying we're doing all that. We give him like a crappy, stupid comedy with his boss that thinks he's his buddy. He's just kind of one of those broy douchebags. I hate that guy. It's like, what are we doing? That's what I'm saying. Like we have these unlikable side characters. We have like the love story. It's kind of pointless, and it's just like anyone with a brainstem can figure. Okay, well maybe she's not for you, or just be upfront with her. I
And then
don't know.
he ends up with Batista's daughter, who they
I,
have like literally one scene with together.
I mean, I don't mind that, but again, another version of the movie that might have worked. You know.
Well, I minded it because they only had one scene together and they didn't even have that much
I'm saying at
chemistry.
that
It's
point it's a
like,
lost cause to you. Therefore, it's like okay, why not? You know, just
right.
I'm saying maybe in a better movie where okay, they have that scene. Maybe she likes. I don't know. It's barely. That's the thing. It's just you can just tell, and you can tell just in this movie that not Najahani did not write this because it would. I'd like to
Oh
think it would
yeah,
have been
for
better.
sure.
That's the
Big
thing.
Sick. This is not.
It's a shame that he didn't write this, or maybe like get like a co-writing thing on this or something. Maybe that might have saved it. I don't know. It's just I was hoping for a fun summer
I mean, at the very
blockbuster.
least, Dragon, I was hoping for like something along the veins of Tag. You know what I mean?
Like Tag, or again, even if it were more like the Hitman's Bodyguard, I'd be
And
satisfied.
I feel like both Tag and the Hitman's Bodyguard aren't exactly high bars to measure up to.
That's what I'm saying. At least if it were like the Hitman's Bodyguard, at least I get a kick out of it. At least I'd be satisfied. Again, it doesn't need to be Yates. I'm not expecting Yates with this. I just want
Yeah.
it to be. Here's the thing, and this didn't help either. I got the better Uber movie the month previous with DriveX.
Oh
With
God.
Fabians, and bear in mind that wasn't like a laugh out loud comedy. It had funny stuff in it. It was more of the dramatic movie with DriveX. And it was a feel good movie. Okay, he's a guy who betters himself by becoming an Uber driver. I like that movie, and that was my barometer. Okay, we have that movie, which I'm sure I assumed. Okay, Stuber's going to blow that movie out. Look, I like the ones I'm going to love. DriveX personally, it's the indie movie versus the Hollywood movie with Stuber, which is what I was expecting, and it wasn't that at all. I was just really let down by it. I just wanted something. I just wanted that trailer, and that movie was not that trailer. You know, it was in part that trailer, but it was just like it wasn't fun throughout. It was just like fun, but you had to sit through you had to eat a lot of crow to get there. You know, it's like oh god, it's just so. Biggest disappointment so far. Honestly, Stuber might be one of the biggest disappointments of the year.
Really? I mean, I honestly.
Never mind. I haven't seen a lot of really bad of the 2019 stuff. I can't really think of anything like really bad I've seen 2019. So
I mean,
hold it.
Like, go ahead.
Sorry, well now I'm thinking like Men in Black International, but I mean, at least that had moments. I mean, okay, I don't know in terms of I guess maybe not bad, but disappointing. I can still say it's disappointing versus Men in Black, where I knew going in that one wasn't going to be good. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I'm just saying this thing feels like too inconsequential to be disappointing one way or another for me.
I say so far. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, you know.
All right, Dragon, can we have the sequel to Stuber be Stuber Eats?
That if Kumail writes it, then sure. If someone other than whoever wrote this movie writes that movie, and give me another good trailer that might sucker me into it again. I don't know.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So, Dragon, yeah, I mean, Stuber might be just a dumb, kind of pointless movie, but at least it's not The Lion King. Dragon, I kind of hate this movie. I really do.
I feel vindicated.
Like, look, on a technical level, it might be better than Dumbo. It is better than Dumbo. It is. But shit, man, it's more insulting by Dumbo at the same stretch. I mean,
yeah, hold. I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you because I just want to call some. I want to make a prediction, if I may.
Okay.
Every person and their mother has been saying the same thing about this movie. I just want to see if you're going to tell me the same thing here. The effects are good and the comedy relief's good. That's about it.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It never fails.
You're
Okay,
really not wrong.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Continue. Just want to make that prediction.
Yeah, the effects are pretty damn groundbreaking. I just, like I said, Dragon, I'd like to see the effects pulled off in a more original movie, maybe a Cats or something like that. But no, there's so many things wrong with this movie. I can't even begin. Oh God, we'd be here all day. Fuck this movie. It's got none of the passion, it's got none of the ambition, it's got none of the pathos. It's just all the life of the original is just completely sucked dry. The emotions of the characters just completely aren't there whatsoever. They all just feel so stone-faced and lifeless. Mufasa's death doesn't even hit at all.
Tiki,
Go ahead.
I've seen one scene from this movie. I kind of snuck a peek at one scene from this movie, and that was the Mufasa death scene, and yeah, it looked really bad.
No! Yeah, it's pathetic. It really is pathetic. I mean,
it's saying something when you hate the lighting of a movie, and I hate the lighting of this movie.
Oh yeah.
I haven't even really seen the movie. Just in the trailers.
Can you feel the love tonight takes place in the broad ass afternoon?
Everything's in daylight in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Dragon, you know the big Mufasa in the clouds thing?
Okay, well, see, I know nothing about what they left out and all that stuff. That's what that's saying. If you have anything, by all means, like, tell me. What do you got?
Okay, you don't see Mufasa in the clouds, you just hear its voice.
That's stupid. Of all the visual stuff you're doing, you don't do the cloud thing.
It's because this is supposed to be super realistic, Dragon.
Movie with lions, right? Talking lion. You're talking lion movie. You want to be
so hard. You know what the biggest insult to this movie is, Dragon?
What is it?
The fact that on opening night, every fucking person in my theater applauded this shit.
Ooh.
I just sat there and I was like, really? I mean, look. Jon Favreau must have had a hell of a time directing this from a technical level. All right, I'll give it that much.
Bad for Jon Favreau, I really do.
And this isn't his fault. It's really not.
He was given the keys to the car, and how do you turn them down? You know, it's like, hey, you did great on Jungle Book. Want Lion King? Well, who am I to say no to Lion King? You know?
I mean, honestly, Dragon, I think the way that you improve this is to add, like, basically what you would do is I would imagine you would combine elements of Simba's pride into this movie. You know, actually have the ostracized lions and Scar's pride and all that. And, you know, like, but they don't do that at all. And Scar is just so... Here's the thing, Chiwetel Ejiofor is actually trying. Like, and you can't say that about most of the voice acting. Dragon, James Earl Jones sounds pathetic in this movie. I mean, I hate to say that, I really do, but he just, oh my God, it feels like he had no energy for this thing. I mean, especially when you compare it to the original Mufasa, like 90% of the time he's saying the exact same lines.
Tika, there's one thing I gotta know. I gotta know this. Okay, with the Mufasa performances, tell me everything I need to know. They do the little playful thing where Simba's like trying to wake up his father. Like, how's James Earl Jones' performance during that bit? Like, how playful is he? Like, oh, before the sun rises, he's your son. That whole thing.
I can't say I remember them doing anything with it.
Did they cut? Do you think they cut it out?
I remember Simba waking up Mufasa. I don't remember any sort of cute exchange between Mufasa and Sarabi. And if there was, most likely it was a very tired, like you know, regurgitating the lines, but with none of the passion.
Well, I assume this latter scene was probably in broad daylight because everything has to be in broad daylight to show that we can do the effects in broad daylight. The whole like, hey Dad, we're pals, right? Yeah, we're pals. The whole like, you know, the whole.
It's actually at night, believe it or not.
I'm stupefied.
I know, right? It's like one of two scenes that takes place at night.
Wait, was he fatherly there at least? Did he connect?
No.
All right.
No, just no.
Was it even playful?
Tired. No.
Man, that's sad.
Yeah, it's almost as if they should have just recast him.
But
Yeah,
again, what makes it's not James Earl Jones. It's not James Earl Jones's fault, too. By the
no,
way,
it's fucking Disney's fault for relying so much on nostalgia, and apparently it works because this movie's making all the money and people actually fucking like it. This is why we can't have nice things.
yep.
I don't know, Dragon. I mean, having said that, I would be down for a sequel with doing the Simba's Pride thing. I really would, because I think at the very least with that you'd have to get creative with it, and you can't just regurgitate the Lion King 2 Simba's Pride beat by beat like you can the original movie.
I think it's part of the problem, though, Tiki. You're saying you want a sequel to this. That's not helping.
Son of a bitch, you're right. I'm not saying I want a sequel to it. I'm saying if they do a sequel to it, I could see it being better than the original. Not saying I want it. Now, Aladdin is a movie, like, out of the 3 remakes we got, Aladdin is the one where I genuinely enjoyed myself in the theater, and I genuinely am kind of curious to see what they can do with a sequel. But yeah, The Lion King is just it's just pointless, Dragon. It's pointless. It might Dragon. I'll go as far as to say this: The Lion King might be one of the most cynical things that Disney has ever done as a company.
Definitely most
It's
money driven.
it's a cynical cash grab of a project. It really is.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
Oh, wait. How was that was Donald Glover? Was he good?
Not really.
Man, that's sad. All right, let's move on. This whole thing's depressing. Let's move on from Lion King.
Okay, on the bright side, Seth Rogen makes a terrific Pumbaa.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. Okay, so Midsummer. Yeah, we move on from my childhood being destroyed to a very, very dark movie. Yeah. Midsummer, I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about this, Dragon, because I know it's not really your thing, and it's a cult movie. Very much a
Oh,
cult movie.
and I hate cults.
Not something you'd ever see. I'll keep this one pretty simple, Dragon. This is basically an update of The Wicker Man to a certain extent. I mean, it's there's some differences to it. It's not like an all women's island or anything like that, but by all intents and purposes, the whole general premise is that these people just go to this Swedish festival that's actually a cult, and then they kind of get systematically killed off one by one in a ritual. And Dragon, the most interesting thing about this is that it's all shot in the daytime. We're joking about the Lion King, but with this, it actually makes sense because with Sweden, I think Sweden gets something like 90 minutes of nighttime per day in the summer. It's really weird where in Sweden it's kind of like an eternal daytime there in the summertime. So they use that to your advantage, Dragon. They really play with your perception of time. Hallucinogenics are strongly involved with this movie's plot. Let's just say Howard Hamlin would probably be a big purveyor of mushroom tea in his hippie era.
Okay, I was imagining Howard Hamlin with like dreadlocks or something.
Just don't trust the mushroom tea, Dragon. If this movie teaches us anything, it's not to trust the
All
mushroom
these like
tea.
him Wendigo blue tie dye.
um, Dragon, as a follow up to Hereditary, which is the director's previous work, I honestly think this is slightly disappointing because this isn't nearly as visceral as Hereditary was. And I think Hereditary was paced a lot better than this was. This one is designed to get you into a certain mindset, and that mindset is just like, I'm tripping balls on mushroom tea, and I don't know how many days I've been tripping balls on mushroom tea because it never gets dark. And hey, it does a good job into kind of giving you that mindset and kind of taking you on that journey. So props to it for that, I guess. Um, it's a really well made movie. There's some excellent cinematography in it, really. There's one shot where the camera turns completely upside down as it follows a car through a road, driving down a road, It's a really trippy visual. And the opening scene is a 10-minute long kind of introduction to the characters where this really, really, really dark thing is going down. Basically, like, the main character's sister is on a bipolar tear and is I don't want to get too far into it, Dragon. I don't want to like explain it beat by beat, but it's the first part of the movie, the first 10 minutes starts in like a really disturbing way. It really does. But I don't know. The movie is just kind of like it just kind of meanders around, and it's a good example of a movie where there's like 10 straight minutes of just these chicks dancing around a maypole and tripping balls, Dragon. It's a weird movie. Probably not the type of movie that you're ever gonna see.
Probably not.
I will say though, Will Poulter is kind of fun.
All right.
He's comic relief. All right. Okay, Crawl. Oh man, I have nothing to say about this one, man. This one just
the Sam Raimi movie with the shark, right?
It's not a Sam Raimi movie. It's a Sam Raimi produced movie, I guess.
Oh, directed?
No, he didn't direct it. No.
Now my interest is completely gone off of this thing.
And it's a giant alligator, not a giant shark.
Oh, right. Okay, well now, okay, yeah, I echo Donovan's sentiment. I don't know if you're talking about Midsummer, but if it applies to Crawl, basically boring. All right, go on.
I think he might be talking about Midsummer, but
anyway, so far my interest is waning on Crawl. Anything you got on it?
Honestly, not really. Crawl. Here's my problem with these types of movies, just in general, Dragon. These types of movies where it's like, okay, we're in this confined space with this really dangerous animal. Dragon, we just end up fucking doing the same beats over and over again, and it's super boring. It's super boring. I mean, it's just like, basically it's like this daughter and her father trapped in a basement during a hurricane, and there's a couple crocodiles, and Dragon, they're just kind of swimming back and forth from one side of the room to the other, trying to avoid the crocodiles, and every so often we get a jump scare, and every so often the crocodile, like, I don't know, like bites the main character's arm or something like that. And throughout all of this, we're supposed to believe that the daughter and father are having this really heartwarming bonding moment, and this whole incident is like bringing them closer after they were estranged after the mother's death, and that kind of shit right there, Dragon. The whole like we're gonna shoehorn in this sentimental father-daughter story into what really should be a B movie. That killed the movie for me right there. We spend way too much time on that shit. We really do. I mean, there's a lot of scenes of just this movie's under an hour and a half long, but it felt like it was longer than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I thoroughly enjoyed every second of that movie. With Crawl, I was just thoroughly bored through the entire runtime. I really was. This one was I mean, it's not as offensive as The Lion King, but I think if I had the choice, I'd probably almost rather go back and watch The Lion King again, because at least that one's visually stimulating. Whereas this one, I mean, the effects of the crocodile are fine when you see the crocodile, I guess. But it's just, Dragon, you know I like bottle episodes and stuff like that, but this movie is just so confined and not in a good way. It's just, it feels very claustrophobic, but without any of the memorability of something like 127 hours or something like that. It's just, it's claustrophobic in the worst way possible, in that the whole time you're watching this movie, you're just bored by the setting and you want to see something else. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of this one at all.
All right.
All right, so what I am a fan of, though, my number one movie of the year so far, and Dragon, I actually saw this a second time just today, so my thoughts on it are very fresh. The Art of Self-Defense, the new black comedy starring Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, they got a lot of traction at Comic-Con. What's the story on this one? What is this?
Dragon, this thing is an instant cult classic, I think. Like, this thing is going to go down as a cult classic. So essentially, the pitch of this movie, Dragon, is essentially imagine if Mark Zuckerberg were just an average, everyday schlub, and he was like very poor at defending himself. He got mugged one day pretty badly, and he wants to defend himself, and he stumbles upon a karate class. And Dragon, the sell is that what if you get so deep into karate that it becomes a problem? And yes, Dragon, there is a little bit of a cult type thing in this movie, but it's not bad. It's
No, T. I mean, I literally hate. I don't like cults. If it's cult-like, I mean, like for example, I'm not against every single cult. I'm just against, like, for example, like Bad Times at the El Roy. That was a good example of cult stuff.
Oh yeah,
Minimum.
for sure.
You know what I mean, like, I'm not like anti-cult, like all around the board. Just I hate when it's like on the nose, like they're really hammered in there.
This movie's got a lot of twists and turns to it. The main sensei, I forget the name of the actor, but the actor, I haven't seen him in anything else, but he's absolutely magnetic in this role. And him and Jesse Eisenberg just have a fierce chemistry with each other. Dragon, this guy is probably my favorite villain of 2019 so far. He really is. I mean, he might have a better screen presence than Mysterio, because this guy is just like, he's got this great kind of mix of like, you want to believe that he's looking out for you, right? Like you want to believe that he's just like a really good kind of like, you want to believe he's the Gene Kusanao of karate, right? That's the best way I can sell him to you. He's younger than Gene Kusanao, but he kind of exudes that same kind of like all-knowing quality that Gene Kusanao exudes. Are you following this?
I got it. He's kind of the karate mecca, and you know, they want him to be as, you know, kind of like, you know, the go-to guy as much as you like, yeah.
But then there's this underlayer of sketchiness to this guy. Mm-hmm. And as the movie goes on, I don't want to spoil too much, but it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly that this guy's got ulterior motives. And just that back and forth of like, the guy, like, does he just want to be a really good teacher to Jesse Eisenberg, or is he pushing him too far? It's Dragon, it's almost like a little bit of like a black comedy Whiplash almost. It's got elements of a bunch of different stuff. But the reason why it's my favorite movie of 2019 is that it completely stands on its own. I can't call it like another Whiplash. I can't call it, you know, another Fight Club, although it has elements of both those movies in it. It's its own thing, man. It's its own thing. When I feel like this movie is like, look, I think the closest thing I can compare to is probably Fight Club, just because of the whole like underground fighting element of it. But I mean, it's not Fight Club in the sense of like there's no like anarchy message or anything like that. It's all a really big exploration of toxic masculinity as well, but not done in an overbearing SJW sense at all. Just like, you know, it's very much black comedy, Dragon, very dry comedy. Like there's this really absurd gag. It makes more sense in the context of the movie where basically Eisenberg feels really empowered when he's wearing his karate belt in everyday situations, right?
Yeah.
Because the idea is that the karate is kind of like taking over his life. So when he's at the office, he's kind of like practicing karate moves under his desk and stuff like that. And so Eisenberg fashions like all these belts, like these actual belts that you can wear for your pants, except for they're like the colors of all the belts that the different students in the class are. So you have some green belts, some blue belts, some yellow belts. You know what I mean? You following me? Okay, and the gag is that the sensei, who's the only black belt in the class, well, the belt that Eisenberg fashions for him just looks like a regular black leather belt. And the sensei is just like, he's like, so like, I love my belt. It gives me, it keeps the pride of the dojo in my heart, even when I'm not at the dojo. And also, it holds my pants up. So, Dragon, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that kind of humor is all over the goddamn place in this movie. You know, that kind of, like, super dry, like, you know, just... Oh man, and it's got an excellent payoff to it. I love the ending to this movie. I'm glowing about this thing, dude. And you know what? I gotta tell you, when I saw this movie's been out for a couple weeks now, and when I saw it today, Dragon, I gotta tell you, like, it was a pretty full. It was a small theater. It was a really small theater. Like, I want to say there were maybe 20 seats, but most of them were filled. And I even got the sense, Dragon. I got the sense. I could be wrong about this, but I got the sense that maybe a good half the people in that theater, if not more than half, were seeing it for not their first time, just based on the way that they would be like expecting jokes and kind of like, oh, here it comes, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to, like, I feel like this movie is already a cult movie, Dragon. I don't mean a cult movie in terms of like the subject matter. I mean a cult movie in terms of like a cult classic. You know
No,
what I
I
mean?
got that much. I got that, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Dragon, like I said, it's pretty damn neck and neck between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and this. But I think this just has such an airtight plot to it. And the plot is what really made me, especially on a rewatch. It's one of those movies where there's definitely some twists and turns to it. And then on a rewatch, you put the pieces together and you're like, oh, I know exactly what's going on here now. And it makes it all the more interesting for that. And like I said, Dragon, the best thing that I can possibly say about The Art of Self-Defense is that it's a movie that feels like it's unto itself. It's not a remake. It's not a sequel. It doesn't feel like another movie. It certainly takes elements from stuff like Fight Club and Whiplash, but it doesn't feel like it's just trying to be Fight Club or Whiplash. I mean, I love it, Dragon. I'm over the moon about it. I really am. It's just it's a striking bit of original cinema.
All right.
Having said that, Dragon, I'm not entirely sure if it's up your alley or not. If you did find that joke that I laid out to you about the belt funny, then that is kind of the type of humor that you're working with throughout the whole movie. So you might get a kick out of it. But by the same time, Dragon, I must warn you, this might be another situation like Good Time where I adore it, but it's just not your thing. And if that does end up being the case, I won't hold it against you at all. But yeah, I mean, this might, like, it could either be a Bad Times at the El Royale or a Good Time, Dragon. And
So
I'm
interesting.
hoping. Go ahead.
So interesting you make that comparison because I have a pick here that might be kind of another. I have kind of a. We'll get to when we get to it. The fact that you bring up Good Time is very interesting when we get to my stuff.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, just suffice to say, folks, I cannot recommend The Art of Self-Defense enough. Try to see it while it's still in theaters, but honestly, it's certainly a movie that's going to have a long shelf life on streaming. I can imagine this movie just hitting Netflix and exploding. I really can. I mean, especially with Eisenberg in the lead. Dragon, I'll say this much. This is bar none Jesse Eisenberg's best performance since The Social Network. Like, by a country mile, I think.
All right.
So, yeah, Art of Self-Defense, folks. Just fucking terrific movie.
Okay. All right, I'm going to try to go through these quickly, but the first one we might want to spend a minute on here. So, as we get into the catch-up portion of the show here, as we've established, my associate here is kind of coming up a little light this month, but hey, to each his own. So me, I got a number of movies I've seen that necessarily haven't come out within the month of June, or either on the backlog from previous years, just kind of movies I've experienced for the first time, or a few that are from 2019, but again, not this month. So first off, here's one from last year that Tiki hyped up to me.
Oh boy,
First,
I'm nervous.
the mystery movie of the evening, folks.
I'm really nervous about this.
Mary Poppins Returns.
Oh no! Oh fuck! Oh god! Oh, I have such a bad feeling about this. Oh, this is going to be an awful conversation. Oh god! All right. Rip off the Band-Aid. How much did you hate it?
Well, if I'm being frank, I thought it was garbage.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm pulling the wool over your eyes. No. Okay, no, in all seriousness, this was better than I expected, just in premise.
Okay.
Return to Mary Poppins, well, but that's the thing, just based on like in the whole of like since the announcement of the movie. Of course, I heard you're singing the praises of it, so I had an expectation. Okay, it might actually be good. So having watched it, fine, because it was on
Well,
Netflix.
keep in mind, I'm way more of a musical guy than you are.
See, the fact of the matter is, folks, I was expecting to watch this when Disney Plus launched, but just by happenstance, it came on Netflix, so I was able to watch it. So, surprisingly. So it basically at the end of the day, with Mary Poppins Returns, I think it's good, not great. Bear in mind, I wasn't able to really kind of rewatch Mary Poppins to fully get the effect. I've seen Mary Poppins, just it's been a while, so man, I kind of know in the way like the American classic, So it's like you got it. So anyway, so I watched this. That's the thing. I think let me put it. If Tiki thinks this is great, I think this is good. I don't think it's sublime, but I think elements of it are sublime. Like for example, Emily Blunt, she is sublime. She's wonderful. She's the best part of the movie. Emily Blunt.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
That's the thing that schooled me.
Yeah.
That's the thing that made me contemplate. It basically came down to Mary Poppins or Aquaman. Obviously, as you can do, Aquaman wins out. So when they came out, Emily Blunt was absolutely the sell of this movie for me, and that was definitely watching. He's like, okay, it was she was everything I hope she
so
she would
good that I wager to say that she emulates the spirit of the original book version of Mary Poppins even better than Julie Andrews does.
A fair point. I don't see her breaking off the
She's a
fingers.
little bit more prickly than Julie Andrews was.
That's a good point. I keep thinking of the whole breaking off the fingers and like it's gingerbread thing. It sounds like it's really dark,
Right.
But no, I give you saying the whole prickly thing. So I think the music's, for the most part, I think the music's solid in this. I mean, my two favorite songs in the whole thing. I love "Lovely London Sky." That's awesome. That's my favorite part.
That's a good song. Yeah.
And so I love "Lovely London Sky," and of course that leads to my favorite part of the trailer too. The whole the big descent, and of course it's to the cue of "Lovely London Sky." It's really cool. The way she makes her entrance with the kite and everything. The symbol of Mary Poppins, along with the symbol of the Mary Poppins movie, all in the same place. Really good. I also love the very last song in the movie. I love the "Nowhere to Go Without."
Song.
So those are my two favorite parts of the movie, if I'm being frank. So those are my two favorite elements.
Okay, what about Triple Little Light Fantastic?
I like it, but not as much as the other two. I'm not.
Triple Little Light Fantastic is the centerpiece of the movie for me.
It is, but I feel that's what's the director's name? Is it Rob Morrow? What is it?
Rob Marshall.
Marshall, thank you. Marshall. Here's the thing. So I feel it's like Rob Marshall doing the Chicago thing when we do that. I feel it's a little too apparent when we do that scene. I mean, it's a good scene. It just feels like the only time the movie I think is going out to be really otherworldly. Okay, we're watching a movie here, then we go down. Okay, now we're just seeing a stage play in front of us here, which it's not the end of the world, but it's like a little takes you out of the illusion a little bit.
I mean, to me, I love that sequence specifically because it emulates the original Poppin style so much.
Yes and no. Yes, in that it's going for that, and I do see that. I do like that. And I do like the kind of that was similar to it, but in terms of style, that's the thing. Stylistically, I don't think it's the same. Stylistically, I think it's more stage play than is we're kind of going around the set of a movie.
I will argue this. I think lyrically, I think the song is more interesting than Step in Time.
All right.
I say that because Step in Time, the lyrics are literally step in time, step in time, step in time, step in time, never need a reason, never need a rhyme. And then with this, it's like you've got all kinds of like British slang and just I love the wordplay in Triple Little Light Fantastic.
Well, no, again, it's a fine song, it's a fine sequence, just not my favorite of the piece. But
okay, I'll tell you. Can I guess what your least favorite song was?
You know what it is. Go on.
Meryl Streep.
No, that's not it. No, I thought it was
fun. Oh, really? That's not your least favorite song, really?
I mean, look, my least favorite song is kind of half of a song, so it's not really fair. It's the.
It's not the Lin-Manuel Miranda rap, is it?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, son of a bitch! Son of a bitch!
Look.
Ah!
Anyway.
Once upon a time in a nursery rhyme.
I mean, I like her side of it. I just not like crazy about his side of it.
I clapped when that came, Dragon.
Okay, let me talk. So speaking of, here's the downside of the movie here for me. Here's where things aren't. Here's what bothers me about
Colin Firth.
Well, of course, you know me. I love Colin Firth, the actor, but his role in this, I don't like the manufacture. Here's the thing: I don't like the manufactured action of the. It basically feels like we're doing the manufactured action of recent Disney films. Like for example, Christopher Robin. I love Christopher Robin. Of course, we have a little bit of like. I like it better in Christopher Robin here. We have like a bit of like we have a chase. We have like a big like, oh, we gotta get the papers to we got the paperwork all the way to the bank and all that. Well, not to the luggage company and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and again, nothing against that in Christopher Robin. I'm saying like it feels like kind of a trope that we're doing more, especially with Dumbo and with certain movies we're doing now. Where okay, we have to shoehorn in an action scene and a villain. We have to do that, and I feel Colin Firth is kind of guilty of that. Where we have a bad guy, where it's just we need. I don't know. It just feels like we're adding stuff that we don't need here. Where we have to shoehorn in an action sequence where we have to get it to the bank right before the clock strikes midnight. And again, it's a fun sequence though when we kind of turn the clock back. But again, it feels like
I do like that. I love the turn the clock back. Like, well, gee, Mary Poppins, all we need to do is turn back time. Shouldn't be too tricky.
like that.
I
Yeah,
like that. That's classic Mary Poppins to me.
like that. Yeah, that's a great idea. I feel it's kind of stupid that why would you turn the light out? Though? Why wouldn't you just turn the numbers back and you're just gonna make you think the clock's just on the fritz. It's just kind of stupid, but Or again, why not have, hey, Mary Poppins, why don't you use the umbrella to get to the clock? Or, hey, deliver it via the umbrella.
Because she likes to see people do stuff for themselves, Dragon. That's kind of the point of her character. I've seen so many people criticize that.
Look, I won't criticize the fact that we have the act. Look, obviously I'm criticizing the action sequence, so I'm not criticizing just living with what we have. I'm not criticizing the fact they have to get from point A to point B. I'm criticizing the fact that, well, we're there. Hey, umbrella, we have a character who can fly. We know who can fly.
She's literally just on the sides, just twiddling her thumbs.
Like literally, it's not that she has to get from. Doesn't have to do all the work. But literally, just like, okay, go up there and just like you turn the number back or stop it.
Right.
Like just one little thing.
You
see what I mean, my biggest problem is less the fact that we have comfort. It's more the fact that like we take a sequence where we go on the bowl, we go on like the the porcelain bowl. And then it turns into like a nightmare sequence with a villain.
That's easily my least favorite scene of the movie is that chase scene in the bowl. But that was completely unnecessary. You could have cut that out.
But overall, T, you see what I'm saying? Like the only nitpick I have with Mary Poppins is that we're making it overly cinematic when we don't have to. Because I think the movie's doing such a good job up to that point. Like, well, why hedge your bets? You're doing a great job. Don't doubt yourselves.
Yeah.
And also, I think the kids are a little too perfect at the start. I think it's a bit of a problem. I think they're like a little too I feel a little.
I mean, the point is that they're growing up too fast, but I definitely can see your problem.
And the problem is they don't have an arc. They don't really have an arc.
Right. What do you think of Michael?
I liked him. Yeah, I recognize that actor. He was in Skyfall. He's his Bond's tech guy. He's the Ben Whishaw or something. Winshaw, yeah. He and Emily Mortimer. Of course, I know her from the Pink Panther movies and a bunch of other stuff.
I really like the song where he's just singing to himself in the attic.
That's not bad.
I don't know. Here's the thing, Dragon. I will say that I do kind of regret putting this as my number one of 2018, as much as I like it. Honestly, I think the big reason I did that was because I have a lot of connections to this movie and my Disney World trip. And so I at the time, both things were kind of just really glowing in my mind. If I were to do it over, I'd probably put Bad Times at the El Royale as my number one of 2018 for the same reason that Art of Self-Defense is my number one. Just in terms of Bad Times at the El Royale is a very, very original movie that you can't really quantify. But yeah, I mean, Mary Poppins Returns, I would still easily put it in my top 5 of 2018.
Anyway, so last thing on Mary Poppins Returns, I love David Warner's in the movie, and I love that because I love David Warner. He played the Admiral. I was very surprised and very happy with that.
I love the Admiral's arc in this movie.
That's the thing. That was great. So again, there's a lot of charm. Mary Poppins Returns. It just obviously doesn't trump the original, but it has a lot of really good stuff.
Sure.
Anyway, let's move on. I'm gonna try to speed through these here, just trying to hit the major points here. So let's see. Framing John DeLorean. I heard about this movie, and I was luckily able to see this movie. So it was Framing John DeLorean. Of course, it's about John DeLorean, the maker of the namesake car, and of course, John DeLorean. Here's the thing. This is a fun, like, kind of twisting what you think you know about somebody on its head. And I love when we do this in a documentary. It's kind of a hybrid. It's a documentary with a recreation sense. So it's kind of a documentary, in part a biopic, but it's a self-aware biopic in that they show you the making of the scenes. So, in essence, John DeLorean, famously, it's like he was, hey, the guy who created the DeLorean car, and he's about to go on and make some other cars and other really great stuff. The guy was kind of a really smart, really endearing kind of like mecha, kind of like the futuristic car designer of the 80s. And then he, late 70s, early 80s, and he goes down for cocaine possession. They have the age-old idea of like, hey, he's like probably smuggling, cocaine in the DeLorean car. And of course, this is really before Back to the Future comes out. So that's the idea. That was kind of what John DeLorean infamously went down in history for. But what it's actually about is, that story you didn't know all the facts of that story. This is a really unique documentary. Alec Baldwin plays John DeLorean, and what's so great about this is that the reason he does this is that John DeLorean called Alec Baldwin back in the day, like I assume circa Beetlejuice, Alec Baldwin. He calls him and he asks him to portray him if they do a movie about his life. And years later, we do this, and he's portraying him in a movie about his life. It's like Alec Baldwin plays him. Morena Baccarin plays the wife of John DeLorean in this, and it's like Alec Baldwin gets to reflect on like what it's like to play John DeLorean, get inside the man's headspace. Like they do interviews of people from John DeLorean's life. They show you how like the whole drug bust. Basically, the idea Tiki, is that the drug bust was kind of it was an entrapment thing. That's where you had like new information put in there, where John DeLorean was just trying to make ends meet financially, and he was kind of tricked into a drug buy, and that's the whole thing. And learn from his son how it kind of ruined his life and everything. It's very interesting. It's very solid. I'd recommend it. I think it's an inventive documentary. Okay. Tiki.
What?
Visual.
Oh shit! Sorry. I don't know how that happened. That just kind of came down. All right, hold on one sec.
Anywho, Mr. Interested. Then we get to Hotel Artemis.
No, I'm telling you, it just came down on its own.
Okay. Anyway, so we have a Hotel Artemis.
I didn't click away on it at all. I don't know how that happened. All right, go ahead. Hotel Artemis.
Hotel Artemis is this. It's kind of like many people compare it to the Continental from John Wick, and again, it's somewhat accurate. Continental is like a far more upscale, kind of cooler place. Hotel Artemis is kind of it's in the dystopian future. It's like it's a realistic kind of crime thriller in the future. That's kind of the gimmick there. We have Jodie Foster. She's she's kind of runs the place. She she kind of runs like a free clinic for criminals. Only it's not free. They charge like a fortune for like membership to this this location. And like in a future where like water is a very hot, valuable commodity. Like it's that bad in the future. It's kind of a negative outlook on the future. But the idea is like you have a little bit of hope and humanity within like Jodie Foster and the Sterling K. Brown character. Sterling K. Brown plays like thieves coming in from like a bad bank robbery gone south, and the ideas are kind of laying low, and then things go south at a night at Hotel Artemis. And it's it's fine. I wasn't expecting a lot from it, but I heard it was good. And I like it in premise because I love kind of the Continental setup, and I love just in general. I love just kind of like you're kind of like the world building of the Hotel Artemis and just how this kind of goes on here. It's a good little solid world building. Jeff Goldblum has a very solid role in the movie. It's a small and simple film, to say the least.
Okay.
All right, so then we hit Stan and Ollie. I've been waiting to see this one. Oh my goodness, Stan and Ollie. This is the biopic, of course, on Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. It's a great biopic. It stars Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly playing Laurel and Hardy. And they're flawless in the roles. You have John C. Reilly in a fat suit. He looks great. He embodies Hardy, like his movements and like the voice and everything. We see him. This is what I want an Abbott and Costello biopic to be done right, because I know there is an Abbott and Costello biopic, but it's terrible. I'm sorry, but it's terrible. But oh my God, this is great. It shows you the evolution of Hollywood, but specifically it shows you the evolution, the tragedy that befalls the comedy duos of the year. Even Abbott and Costello. You have every decade has a comedy duo. Like there's like generations of comedy duos, and like Abbott and Costello, like, they flourished in the '50s. Laurel and Hardy were like they were kind of the precursors to Abbott and Costello, and they kind of like waned as they grew more popular, being the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a tragedy with a hopeful. With kind of a hopeful undercurrent, if that makes any sense, because these guys. It's basically the premise of the movies are Laurel and Hardy on their last ride in Hollywood. They're on a tour, and it's like the idea is like this is like the last thing they're going to do together, and things are not going well, and you're rooting for them. So I'd highly recommend this, Tiki, especially to you.
Okay.
Okay, something I found on Hulu, Laddie. It's about Alan Ladd Jr. I think it's Laddie, the man behind the movies. I believe that's what it's called, but it's a documentary. You can find it on Hulu. It's about Alan Ladd Jr. Of course, some people may recognize the name. Alan Ladd Jr. is the producer behind some of the great cinematic classics, particularly Star Wars. Of course, he's the reason we have Star Wars, because the idea is George Lucas had all this pressure thrust upon his shoulders, and like every minute the studios like breathing down his neck. Alan Ladd Jr. was the guy who tried to fight off the studios. Like he took he really took it on the nose for George Lucas at times. He was like a staunch defender of George Lucas. Beyond that, he's the reason we have Blade Runner. He's the reason we have Alien. He's the reason we have Thelma and Louise. The Right Stuff. He's the champion for these movies. Like he's the guy. He's the producer you want in your corner while you're making like a movie that's challenging the conventions of the times. It's kind of like it's a film done by his daughter as a tribute to him. He's still around. It's very much like Quincy. It's very much like the daughter making a film about her father. It's a really nice personal piece. It's a great reflection of the industry, of like what you want the industry of Hollywood to work, how you want it to work. That's kind of what Laddie is.
Is it kind of like a slice of life or what?
I mean, it's kind of like goes through his life, goes through what he's done. So it's not a slice. I don't think it's not showing what he's doing now. It's just showing what he's done.
Okay.
And just kind of like goes through the career. So speaking of it, Laddie turned me on to a bunch of movies because I saw like Alan Ladd Jr. They kind of show you a bunch of movies that he produced and a lot of careers that he helped, and this led me to check out a few movies that were mentioned there. So this brings me to Night Shift. The Night Shift was Ron Howard's second movie. This is a fun strange one, Tiki. This is again, it was an Alan Ladd Jr. production. It was this is like a movie that any other studio would probably slam the door in your face on, but not Alan Ladd Jr. This is it's an out there idea. So basically, morticians, like some guys who work in a city morgue, Chuck and Bill, played by Henry Winkler and Michael Keaton. Very young. This is like like a few years post Happy Days, I'd imagine. Maybe a couple of years after Happy Days, like early Henry Winkler in the movies. That's what I'm talking about here. The idea is that these morticians, by night, to make ends meet and to help their friends, they become pimps. They become friendly pimps.
Oh dear.
Hence the night shift of it all. They work the night shift of the morgue.
Right.
And the idea is out of the mortuary, out of the morgue, they run. Chuck, Henry Winkler's character, he befriends in his building. He befriends someone who moved in recently, a prostitute played by Shelley Long. That's right, from Cheers, Shelley Long.
Oh God.
Diane from Cheers, and she probably around the height of her. I don't know if this is pre or post or in the middle of Cheers, but it's early Shelley Long. It's a really friendly movie, despite the subject matter. It's like they basically play friendly pimps, and they're protecting the girls, and I think it suffers. It's a good movie. I'd recommend it, but it suffers. Be warned, it suffers from the cliche of the '80s, and the cliche of the '80s being the age-old thing you see in so many good '80s movies. The second, the third act shift. We're okay. We hit the low of lows. And then they have to get back together. That whole thing, and especially in the '80s movies, you have like, okay, there's a little bit of an action set piece. We got to jog our way through here, and that's like, with the exception of the third act cliches, I think the movie's really good. I just love this. I just love them I love how they sell the sense of community and loyalty within the oldest profession. I love basically they get in trouble, they get sent to they get arrested or booked, and basically girls bail them. I thought that was so nice. Oh man, they grew to like it, because the idea is that they're not treating like terribly like pimps usually do. Like they're treating like like people, like humans. Like they give them like a bigger cut of the percentage. Like they only take like 10% of the earnings.
Oh, nice.
It's so nice, Anyway.
Pimp pleasantries, Dragon.
That's what I'm saying. It's full of pimp pleasantries.
Oh, God.
They even give Henry Winkler a pimp hat, and it's nice.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so pimps aside. Trek Nation. This is the other thing from Alan Ladd Jr. This is a Trek Nation, man. I heard about this. I never watched it because I assumed it was like Trekkies, and it wasn't. I'm not saying Trekkies in any way. I'm saying I assume I saw it already within Trekkies.
What is it about if it's not about Trekkies?
I don't know. I'm saying is like there's a documentary called Trekkies, which is about the fan culture of Star Trek. I assumed I saw it already based on.
I see what you're saying. So you thought it'd be kind of in that vein, okay?
Well, I thought I already saw it already. I thought it was like the same movie. I completely forgot. Oh no, it's not Trekkies. Trek Nation. I thought it was like something similar to it. But yeah, it's This is really fast. T, you've got to check. If you like For the Love of Spock, you've got to check this out, man. This might be one of the definitive Star Trek documentaries. If you can only check out a few Star Trek documentaries, this and For Love of
I
Spock.
mean, I'm not a big Star Trek guy, but
well, neither am I. You know, we're in the same boat on that. That's what I'm saying.
right, yeah.
This is about Gene Roddenberry's son. The guy who created Star Trek. He has a son, Gene Roddenberry Jr., who goes by the name of Rod. So Rod here, he learns about his father after his death via Star Trek. You know, like if after his father's death, a few years pass, and the idea is like 2001 to 2010. This movie came out in 2011. He kind of compiled interviews. He went around. He kind of learned about the culture of Star Trek and learning about basically building a connection to his father, who he was kind of on the outs with in life. He was kind of a rebellious teen. He kind of learns about his father. It's a really nice reflective piece. It's like a 10-year process of putting together a documentary. It basically leads up to the J.J. Abrams kind of inch foray in the Star Trek. It's the very first, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, what it builds up to. It's a beautiful, sentimental piece. You know, it's really nice. I recommend it strongly.
Cool.
All right, then we have, here's one that's kind of a companion piece to Always that we talked about last month.
Oh, man. Okay.
Heart and Souls. So Heart and Souls is a Downey Jr. movie. It's a Robert Downey Jr. movie. This is... So this is a ghost movie, very much like Always, where basically you have like kind of like the guardian angels in the form of ghosts here, where they're kind of following our guys unseen, at least for the most part, let's say. It's a bunch of people from 1959, four people, four really great stars, by the way. We have Charles Grodin's in this movie. I love Charles Grodin. You have Charles Grodin, you have Alfred Woodard, a reunion piece from Civil War with Downey Jr. and Woodard.
Right.
Tom Sizemore, aka Tom Hanks's go-to guy, and he's lieutenant in Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I knew who Sizemore is. Yeah.
And Kira Sedgwick. So they're the four ghosts. They get killed in a bus accident, and the bus driver is also kind of punished because he collects souls by driving a big old bus through the place, and they board the bus when their time is up. And the idea is that they have a chance to take care of their final business on Earth, kind of live out like the regrets that they had on the night that they died. But they don't know this until the kid. They think during this car, as they all died, a woman went into labor and gave birth to Tom, who is Robert Downey Jr.'s character. And the idea is they're kind of like linked to this kid. It's very much like watching you, Tiki. They can't leave this kid. They're bonded.
Oh man, that's so weird.
And for years, until Downey Jr.'s grown up, they don't realize that, oh my God, wait, no, we can't. They didn't know they were able to sell their business. They didn't know that's what they were put on. They thought they were the guardian angels of the kid, and they learned, no, oh my God, we have to sell our business via the kid. We can take control of his body. That's what our shtick is.
What? Oh, this got even weirder. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's weird, but it's interesting. It's like weird in terms of I want to look into this, and and that's the thing. So here's the thing. My only issue with the movie is that it turns with the whole body possession thing turns a little selfish in places, especially when like at the start of like when basically Downey Jr. the idea is like they turned invisible on the kid, so the kid wouldn't say, "But my imaginary friends are in the room," the whole thing there. So they kind of like watched over him silently for years. And they have to come back to sell their business, and like Downey Jr.'s a full-grown man. Like, oh my God, what's happening here? He's freaking out, and his body's being possessed by him, so they can sell their business. So yeah, a little selfish in kind of in trying to get that premise off the ground. But it's Downey Jr. He's it's an acting bonanza for him, getting to act like four different people. It's it got really good direction and the effects. It's a little cringy in places, I won't lie, with Downey Jr. having to act like a woman in places. It's like, okay, a little.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, on the whole, it's an interest. It's from 1993, definitely worth maybe a check just out of curiosity's sake here. Okay. Mommy, Dead and Dearest. Mommy, Dead and Dearest is a documentary that came out of, I want to say, 2017 on HBO. So this is about, it's kind of a true crime story. This is about, I don't know if you're familiar with this at all, D.D. Blanchard. Does that ring any bells?
Oh, is that the mother of Gypsy?
Yes, same one.
Yes. Oh, yes. I am very familiar with this. Yes.
So this is about exactly what you're thinking of. This is about so the idea is you have a woman, you have a mother and a child. And the idea is this girl was stricken with cancer. So we thought. The idea is that her daughter Gypsy, her daughter was sick, and the idea is that she used this as an excuse of like basically her daughter, I want to say, wasn't actually sick with cancer, but was sick with something that basically was made worse by her mother. Her mother like overprescribed her, basically faked cancer. She faked cancer onto her daughter, and really, like really painful and really a lot of Her mother did a lot of horrible stuff to her, basically using the daughter as a con to get free stuff, and kind of like Make-A-Wish sympathies and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this eventually drove Gypsy to murder her mother. Somewhat. Again, it's a question of how intentional it was, and the documentary kind of gets into that.
Actually, no, Dragon, I'm pretty sure I've seen this documentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should have had it up there earlier then.
No, I just didn't recognize the title, but
yeah, it's basically you know what it's basically. It's a question of drives her murder via the boyfriend, and it's kind of about the gray in between the motives of murder. It's gray within the what motivates a murder. It's I think the style they could have done a little bit more stylistically with this, but it's it's solid enough. It's not bad. It's an interesting story. I think they could have sold that a little bit more. I'm going to switch up my order on these last two here because we're almost done. I want to save the most interesting one for last. Okay. Call Me Lucky. This is another documentary. This is by Bobcat Goldthwait. Bobcat Goldthwait, he's a very interesting guy, especially when he makes movies. Of course, he's very much a very I'm losing the word for it right here. He's just he's a very avant-garde comedian, if you will, Bobcat Goldthwait. He's kind of the Kaufman generation. He's kind of the next generation of Kaufman, if you will. The guy will light a set on fire to get a reaction. That's Bobcat Goldthwait. I mean, that in the literal sense. He set a set on fire once. But the idea is he did a documentary on his friend and kind of beloved comedian within the circuit, Barry Crimmins. The idea is that Bobcat and Tom Kenny, they're buddies, like Bobcat, Tomcat, and Bearcat, being their trio of names. And Crimmins is a satirist. He makes fun of the way the world is, the government, what we're doing here, global warming, that sort of stuff. But we learn, this is a really dark documentary, I'll warn you, and this is the only thing Bobcat Goldthwait would do. I want to see him do more documentaries after this thing, because this is really fascinating. It's we learned that Barry Crimmins was violated horribly as a child. I can't get into the specifics because it's way too dark to go into. This motivated him to, years later, he would go on to very famously protect kids via, he went to Congress and he basically learned about AOL. Remember when AOL was a thing, Tiki?
Yes, I do.
Of course, AOL back then, they actually were very susceptible to child pornography. A ring of that sort of thing going on, chat rooms, the whole shebang, really embarrassing, how easy it was. And Crimmins is the reason why AOL was kind of took a big hit to its reputation, and the fact that now it's now there's a protective. This is back during a time when there wasn't a protection for this sort of thing. So Crimmins was kind of a hero in this thing. And it's it shows you how a guy how a comedian responds to such a deep trauma like that. Turning that into something positive, helping people as a respected figure in the comedy circuit. It makes me interested to see what other stuff Goldthwait would do in terms of a documentary. Last thing I got to get to here, the thing you got to check out, Tiki.
Okay.
It's kind of Serenity meets Good Time.
Oh man! All right.
This is God. This is a delightfully insane and dark movie. This is The Perfect Host.
Okay, I've never really heard of it, I don't think.
Given your Frasier kick, you really want to watch this movie.
Okay.
This is a delightfully insane and dark film. To me, it's the better Good Times. At least, bear in mind taste. I'm not saying maybe it's objectively, maybe it's not better than Good Time, but preferentially, I like this. To me is the better Good Time. Where it starts off like Good Time, but then it goes, this is twisty beyond compare. So you have Clay Crawford, murked from the new Lethal Weapon show. Clay Crawford, the one who played Riggs, but of course I won't get into the whole thing. The point is that Clay Crawford, it was Riggs, and he was really good on that show. He plays a criminal who basically, I believe he basically pulled off a heist, and he basically just going over he has the money, he's figured out the next stage of the plan with his girlfriend and everything. The point is he's robbed the place, but now he needs to make the getaway. Very much like Good Time, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, and it stars Clay Crawford as our crime, as John, and then David Hyde Pierce.
Oh God.
David Hyde Pierce. So the idea is that Clay Crawford, he's looking for a place to lie low and just figure out his next step because he's been wounded. He's kind of get shot in the leg, in the foot, or something. The point is he's been injured. So he's laying low, and he goes up to a residence. He's a con man. He basically goes into the mailbox. He reads the letters. He kind of knows the guy's name and just sells himself. It's I know your friend. I know this person. I'm a friend of the person you've been corresponding with, of your friend in Sydney, Australia. So he's led into the house, and then he eventually, once High Pierce is kind of onto the ruse, he then takes High Pierce hostage. And again, you think we're in the good time vein, somewhat, right?
Sure.
Wrong, because then, oh goodness, then we take a huge flip. We flip things in a major way here, where then David High Pierce turns into our charismatic host and apparent serial killer.
Really?
Where he's basically he seems to be like in classic David High Pierce hosting. I'm hosting a dinner party, and then of course Glenn Crawford comes by and says, "Okay, he's holding him hostage with a knife," and he's saying, "Okay, listen, you cancel your dinner party." So basically, he's waiting for people to show up to the dinner party. And he tells him, like, he said, he tells him to show up, tells him to cancel the party and everything. So he does that. And of course, eventually, High Pierce, we learn that he drugged the drink that Crawford was drinking. Then he gets knocked out. Then it's a whole new. That's when we get to Act Two. And it's a whole new ball game.
Oh man, just Act 2 out of 3?
That's Act Two out of 3. So basically, it's.
That's
I mean,
wow. That sounds like a crazy movie so far.
if I'm being honest, it might be like more towards like the end of Act One. But I mean, bear in mind, it's like majority of Act Two. And then it's like David High Pierce is now our guy there, and then now Clint Crawford's the hostage. And
Right.
without giving too much away, we have even bigger twists that follow. Because basically, he's at David High Pierce's mercy, and it's David High Pierce having a great time. He's being so much fun, and it's terrifying at the same time. And it's so. I just can't recommend this to you of all people more highly, Tiki. I'll admit the plot's not perfect. It's a little convenient in places, but by the same token, though, it's just so much fun. And definitely worth a watch. And it's the twist it's twist upon twist as it goes forward. You're going to be like, what? How the? But you're going to be enjoying it. I think it ends very satisfying. I think you're going to like it. It's a perfect host. That's the obscure one I'd recommend. It came out, I think, 2009. I'd recommend.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Jesus, I've never heard of it, but it definitely sounds like it'd be up my alley just in terms of craziness for sure.
And on your Frasier kick, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
All right,
man.
so should we just kind of bullet point the August stuff? Because there's really not a lot coming out in August.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
I only have one thing
you know
personally
what?
for me.
Why don't we give the best and worst, and then and then we'll bullet point the August stuff.
Okay, best. I guess best July thing for me. I mean, look, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was really good. I think I'm gonna have to defer to Spider-Man Far From because of the Mysterio of it all. At the end of the day, it's Mysterio. I got to put him as the best. Stuber is the worst.
All right. For me, best is probably going to be The Art of Self-Defense, with the asterisk that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really is fantastic as well.
It is.
And with the worst, I'm going to have to go with The Lion King is the most offensive cash grab. And then Crawl is just really, really boring and formulaic. So honestly, both of them are kind of equally offensive in different ways. But by all means, you might like Crawl. I'm not saying you specifically, Dragon. I'm just saying like the listeners. Like they might like Crawl because more people than not seem to be enjoying it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, kind of eclectic mix here. Let's see. We've got Fast and the Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw,
which Donovan's looking forward to. And Hobbs and Shaw, the only thing that interests me about Hobbs and Shaw, I mean, look, the chemistry looks like, I'm sure it's going to be, look, at the end of the day, I was sold that movie more so on, like, if it was Idris Elba's movie, I would watch that movie, but it's not. You know, if it was like Idris Elba as this really cool looking super soldier guy, like, yes, I want that movie. Maybe a little less emphasis on Black Superman, because really you're not. You're more like again, Black Superman again being like you're not, you don't have super strength, you can't fly. It's like not really the best comparison. He's I forgot what the comparison was. He was Black James Bond. That's the better. That's the thing, because everyone said like there was more of a thing about Idris Elba playing James Bond. Why didn't they go with that comparison than the Superman?
Right.
It makes more sense though. Anyway.
Okay, The Nightingale, which is a movie I'm very much looking forward to because that is the same director as The Babadook. Very, very compelling horror movie. I would say The Babadook almost kind of jump-started the horror movie renaissance of the past half a decade or so. Okay, August 9th is actually a pretty big week for movies here. We have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I'm relatively excited about. Kind of cautiously optimistic about that one. We have The Kitchen, which looks like The Kitchen could go either way. It could be a really, really what?
Yeah, this is based off a Vertigo, DC comics, a Vertigo comic. So
Uh-huh.
it's interesting, but I'm not going to go see it personally.
I don't know if I'll see it. I'll go see it if it gets really good reviews, but if it kind of gets just middling reviews, I'll probably wait for it. Um, Dora, I may or may not see in theaters. Just out of curiosity, I am very curious about how they're going to pull that one off.
Yeah, I'm not going to chance it. I'm not seeing that.
I mean, fair enough, dude. I don't blame you by any means.
We have Michael Pena, and I'll give him points on that alone, but that's really all I got for him.
Right. Okay, let's see. August 16th, we have the Angry Birds movie too. Bill Hader Dragon. And also Dove Cameron for Donovan.
Speaking of which, Donovan brought these were, I think, earlier in the month. So I might as well bring it up. So there's Descendants 3, which was brought up.
Okay.
And for me, there's Batman Hush. Honestly, that's the one thing I got going on August. If I'm being frank, Batman Hush when it comes out.
Okay. What about Good Boys?
Boys, that's familiar.
It's the R-rated comedy starring Jacob Tremblay.
I say F that movie, man. I don't want that. I don't. What's really sad? It's not the movie's fault here, but you know what? It's like that trailer plays. It would have been horrible if the A Beautiful Day Neighborhood then that plays. That would have been horrible because they had that. Then they had
yes.
When I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they had the red band trailer for that, followed by Will You Be My Neighbor. So at least they cushioned it. But if they had it the other way, it would have been like really offensive to me. Like, oh, come on.
Okay, Good Boys to me looks like a relatively good time. I don't know.
I mean, I'm saying taste-wise, it's not for me, but I mean,
fair enough. 47 meters down, uncaged. I guarantee you that's going to be just as boring as Crawl was. Next. The Playmobil movie.
No idea what that is.
Okay, Dragon, I have to rant on these next couple movies just because I've gotten the trailers for them over and over and fucking over again, and I want them to come out just so I don't have to sit through the fucking trailers anymore. Okay, I'm curious if you know anything about either of them. Blinded by the Light.
Got nothing.
Oh god, fuck this movie, dude. This movie is like, it's basically like, it's, how do I even describe this madness? It's like this Indian kid who gets really inspired by the lyrics of Bruce Springsteen, but his traditional Indian parents don't fucking like Bruce Springsteen.
Are you kidding me? They're doing another one of these?
Yes.
Yes. I literally can't believe it. I can't believe they're doing another one.
Dragon, it looks like the most cliche fucking bullshit. All right, it's just.
It would have been hysterical if Yesterday came out this month, in the next coming month. Wouldn't it be amazing?
No, that's the thing, is that this is like exactly like Yesterday. Dragon, there are some moments in this trailer that are pure fucking cringe. All right, just pure fucking cringe. I'm sorry. I need to spend a minute on this because I have been bombarded with this goddamn trailer.
Wait a minute, are you going to see this?
I might. I don't know. It depends on
if you do, save the vitriol for when you cover it.
No, it depends on if my grandma wants to see it. I honestly, dude, I need to get the vitriol out right now, okay?
Fine, go on, hurry up.
So three moments in particular, just really get under my fucking skin with this. Let's see. Moment number 1, we see the main character at an airport, and there's this like fucking fat, like Kevin James looking security guard with a mustache, and he's like, "First time in America?" And the character's like, "Yes, I'm going to go see the home of Bruce Springsteen." And then there's this dramatic pause, and the security guard's just like, well, I can't think of a better reason to visit the US of A than to go see the home of the boss. Approved. God damn it. America. And then we have at the very end of the trailer, they have it like the most fucking cringy like sting to the trailer where we see the main characters just like reciting lyrics to his friend, and he's just like, tramps like us, baby, we were born to run. And then the friend is just like, man, I told you, your lyrics are rubbish. That doesn't even rhyme. I'm just like, fuck you, movie. Just fuck you. Ugh. And a movie that actually might have potential, but I'm just really, really sick of the trailer. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? This is directed by Richard Linklater, which is the only reason I care about it at all. But it stars Cate Blanchett. I'm just going to read off the Wikipedia summary. As a loving mom who becomes compelled to reconnect with her creative passions after years of sacrificing herself for her family. Yeah, I don't know, Dragon. Here's the thing. It looks like it could be okay. Cate Blanchett looks like she's delivering a relatively good performance. Frankly, it seems like the kind of role that was tailor-made for Frances McDormand. But the trailer just gives away everything. It gives away every little fucking beat of the movie. And it's just like, oh, you'll never believe it. Bernadette jumped out a window. And then we're listing like, so you're saying that Bernadette ran over a teacher and then caused a situation that flooded the neighbor's house, and I'm just like, dude, you're literally giving away the whole movie. Why are you running through the whole goddamn movie? And then on top of that, Dragon, it's a trailer that has like one of those like very, very, very cliche, like inspirational folk songs playing over it. It's just overall a very annoying trailer that I get in front of every fucking movie. I'll say this much, Dragon. When I went to go see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood last night, and they didn't have the full trailer for this movie, they just had like the minute-long trailer that was much more condensed. Dragon, I felt like so relieved. I was like, oh, I don't have to sit through the whole 3-minute trailer. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I just get a little bit of cliche indie torture. All right. Okay, next up, I got to admit, on August 23rd, Dragon, there's a whole hell of a lot of nothing. There's a Secret Service movie starring Gerard Butler called Angel Has Fallen. No, I got nothing. That's about it. That looks like one of the most dead movies of the dead months of the year.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, yeah, this whole August looks like it's pretty much a drought. I mean,
Yeah.
oh man, I am not looking forward to this month at all, Dragon. This is gonna suck.
I really think August
really
should be
suck.
August really should be your catch-up month.
It should be, man. It should be. You're right about that. I mean, I'm just looking through these movies and
I
oh
just got
man.
Batman Hush. That's all I got. Maybe if we ever do the Descendants, then we might have that on.
I mean, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is like probably by far the thing I'm most anticipating this month, but even that's just like I'm kind of just mildly interested in seeing that. And I'm definitely interested in The Nightingale, but I don't even know if that's going to come to my local theater. I know The Babadook didn't get anywhere near me when that first came out, so we'll see. All right. Anyways, Dragon, let's end this out. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. No, I think it speaks for itself. We said what we liked, and I think it kind of took place. July was solid. August probably not going to be as promising.
I am dreading August, man. I really am, especially because there's like movies that I'm probably going to end up seeing just to go see a movie, but I'm not going to have any enthusiasm for. Like, yeah, all right, it's a quiet Wednesday afternoon. I got nothing going on. Might as well go see fucking Where'd You Go, Bernadette? So, all right. So thank you all for joining us, folks. We've waxed on long enough. it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return with another fitting chapter in our
Movie memoir.
Memoirs. You're such a loser. You're such a fucking loser. Fuck you.